Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another 3 Point Weekly stream. We have a lot to talk about today, from the in season tournament getting into its semifinals in a day's time, as well as some of the top teams in the league expected going into this season having some really good streaks over the last little bit, winning 7 or 8 of their last 10 games. And also, as you tell by the title in the thumbnail, the Golden State Warriors, who have had, to say the least, a bit of a disappointing start to the season after having a pretty good run through their first 5 or 6. We'll talk about some other teams as well. We got the Spurs losing streak to talk about that they're trying to break tonight as we speak. The Mavericks are trying to get back to winning ways tonight against another easy team, which seems to be a trend for them this year. So we'll get into that amongst much more. Should be a pretty free flowing episode. Got a lot to talk about. And if you do enjoy, be sure to hit that like button down below. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'll remind you guys later, but we will not be live next week. There will be no stream next week, but the week after that, we will be back to regular scheduling. But you guys just get an extra night to watch NBA ball next week as opposed to tuning in to 3 Point Weekly. But without further ado, let's get into the Golden State Warriors, because I know we've all had some thoughts about the Warriors going into the year, and now that we're a bit over a month into it, how they've been so far. We've had some high hopes for Curry and MVP talks, and now we're at a point where I know, Reek, specifically, you've had some thoughts about Clay and Moody, and have voiced those thoughts. I'll let you get a start with that and anything else you feel about this Warriors team so far, because we were relatively high on them and Curry going into this year, and Curry is not necessarily disappointed, but the rest of the squad has continued to do so even longer than we might have hoped that they would.
Yeah, Steph's been really good. I mean, he's doing Steph Curry things. Like that's, we expect this from Steph, but the supporting cast has definitely failed him. Mainly his counterpart, Klay Thompson, has just not been. He fell off even more from last season when he was good last year, but we knew he wasn't the same Klay. It's worse this year. He just doesn't look the same really on either end of the floor. Wiggins hasn't been great. Draymond, we know what he provides, but it really seems like since that Timberwolves incident, like it's been tough for this team to kind of get back on track and be consistent. They've blown 2 20-point leads in the last couple of weeks, or like the last 10 days they did that. Like just not the same Warrior team that we're used to seeing. It seems like there's just a lot of turmoil, and it was like that last season too, after the whole Draymond Jordan Poole incident, and now it's kind of the same way for different things. It really begs the question of like how are they going to try and maximize Steph Curry this season because he's still playing amazing basketball, and you can't waste a year of Steph Curry. I would call this wasting 2 years of Steph Curry if they don't right this ship this season, because last year, even though they won a playoff series, I feel like coming off of a championship, the expectation is to make another deep playoff run. They weren't really in that Lakers series like they probably could have been if, guys were playing up to par. So, it's tough this season. And yeah, I've been like very vocal about Clay. I said on the timeline last week, I think I said something like Moses Moody is just as good as him right now. And I instantly got like 2 or 3 replies saying like, no, he's probably better right now. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are right. Like he actually is better. Moses Moody is more efficient. He's just as good, if not a better defender right now. And he doesn't take the same bad quality of shots that Klay Thompson does. He takes his shots within the offense. He's not kind of a ball stopper like Klay is, which is funny because he's a catch and shoot guy. But Klay takes a lot of just tough, unnecessary bad shots. And Klay, before all the injuries, was making a lot of those tough shots. Since he's came back, he hasn't been that same guy. And if your number 2 option, essentially, especially with the way Wiggins has been playing, is taking those kind of bad shots, it molds for a lot of just bad basketball, and that's why the Warriors are struggling. That's why they're blowing these big leads, because, yes, Steph's great, but he's always been the type of star player that definitely needs his support. Like, he needs guys around him to play up to par, and that's not a knock on Steph Curry. It's just he can't affect the game in ways that like a LeBron James does, because LeBron, with the ball in his hands, is so dominant. Steph, being the off-ball guy that he is, he needs guys to be playing up to speed. So he needs Klay to be hitting shots. He needs Wiggins to be hitting his shots, hitting his, mid-range pull-ups and stuff like that. And those guys haven't been doing that. And they've also missed like Chris Paul for a few games. Wiggins was out for a little bit too when it seemed like he was playing a little bit better. So it's just been rough for the Warriors. I honestly, if they don't make an in-season move, which the front office has notoriously been like that, but with Dunleavy in charge now, calling the basketball shots, maybe it's different this year. But man, it just makes you like kind of look back. And I know hindsight is always 2020, especially in the NBA. But that 2020 draft class, they might have really botched it and really botched their future with this because at that point you were looking at like they could have had like a LaMelo, or even if it wasn't LaMelo, like Halliburton, Desmond Bain, Tyrese Maxey. There were so many really good guys in that class behind Anthony Edwards. And you look at that, Jordan Poole looks so promising, after they made it to the finals and won it. And now they're just at the point where it looks like there's really no way out unless you like can get off of the Klay Thompson this year or, trade a Chris Paul. And even if you do that, it probably only makes you marginally better. So they're kind of screwed unless they just figure it out, which you can never put that out of the realm of possibility for a team that's this experience, has won this many championships. But at some point, you can't really just keep giving them that benefit of the doubt because maybe this is who the Warriors are now, and we might just have to accept it.
Man, you definitely unpacked a lot of things there. That was really good. That really covered like most of the things that I needed to say.
I've been waiting to talk about this, man, and it's like they haven't gotten better since like the last time we spoke about them. Like we talked like last season, like it was the road struggles, and now they can't really win at home consistently. It's just not the Warriors that we're used to, and maybe we just kind of took them for granted, and now we're seeing them like this, and it's like their fall off just seems a little more like drastic than maybe it should be.
Yeah, I know we talked about them like a couple times in the last couple weeks, and really one of the things that still holds true to me is I'm still pretty good with their bench unit. Like the unit out there, like Chris Paul, Dario Saric, Kuminga, Moody, like they look real solid out there. I know Gary Payton went down, and that's an unfortunate loss for them. But at least like the top four guys on the bench, they're still keeping on. It's really just those starters, and the fact that the starters outside of Steph are just like not playing up to expectations, and that's really almost the most concerning thing because there's that intangible aspect of it of so what do they do to get better here? And unfortunately, when you're talking about a unit like this and Steph, Klay, and Dre that's been together so long, it's like, can you break that up? And if it's like how do you really go about that? And I think it puts them in a really compromising position because it's clear that Steph is still ready to go, but the rest of that big three and even Wiggins are just not getting the job done. And like you said, like Steph is a guy that's going to need some good support to go far. I mean, you just look at the entire history of the NBA. How many teams are out here winning championships with the point guard as the leader? And you think you got like Magic Johnson, and he had the greatest center of all time on his team, and Steph Curry, who's had good supporting cast, notably like with Kevin Durant and them. Well, he's been winning titles. So when you look at that, it's like, yeah, a point guard, no matter how good he's playing, is not going to get it done alone. And when it's him, guys like 2 through 4 through even 5 usually aren't playing very hot. And then you get to like the bench and it's like, oh, they're cool. Well, you have a major gap in production that you're going to have to make up for. But that ties me back to my main point. How do you make up for it? What do they do in this situation? Can they get off Klay? Like, do you guys think that's even in the realm of possibility, or would that just ruin like the relationship with Steph and if they keep Dre around? And like, how do you guys see that playing out?
You go ahead, Dave.
It's a weird spot. I don't know if there's a great avenue for them to get off of that. I mean, the right team might take him just because he's an expiring, but I don't know if there's any team that's looking to bring him in as some great asset right now as a winning team. I just don't think that's what Klay is right now. Klay is not being that for the entirety of the season, and if the Warriors are that type of team and wanting to move off of him for that reason, that speaks volumes. So the only option that really seems to present itself right now that makes sense from a finances and somewhat from a basketball perspective for any opposing team is a Levine trade. The Warriors would have to attach more to Klay probably, but at least from a financial standpoint, it makes sense. The Bulls are off his money at the end of the year, so if they just want to let him walk and not have to pay a dude after this year, which presumably is what they would want, then that's an avenue. And then now the Warriors do probably have to trade a young guy, which cuts into that good bench, which we have been talking about, which they're going to need if their secondary scoring continues to be a problem. But presumably Levine would help that. Outside of that, Siakam's been a name that's been brought up again. I don't see how that solves many issues, considering Looney and Draymond are already on this team and playing such significant minutes. And again, early season, 19, 20 game sample size like Wiggins and like Clay, but Siakam has been a terrible three-point shooter as well this year. I think he's at least not on the year throughout around his last 50 attempts or so, sub 20% from three. It's been a really tough year for him from there. So that doesn't really help them from that perspective. Obviously, it's more of a scoring punch, but they need at least a few guys that are going to shoot the ball. And if Clay ain't hitting and Wiggins ain't hitting, if they're bringing someone in, they better make sure it's someone who can hit a three. So they do have some flexibility in terms of assets. How valuable is Clay if they decide to move off him? That remains to be seen. I think Wiggins still has a lot of value if they do decide that even though he's 28 and this probably isn't a permanent regression, they just need to move off him because they're desperate to get someone who can produce right now. Given he's only getting like 25, 26 mil a year for the next few years, as productive as he's been the last few years, even despite this year's struggles, there's probably value there to someone. But Clay's going to be tough to move. And like you alluded to, Reek, maybe under new management, they're a little bit more willing to make a move. But even guys on the Warriors have said, Draymond said it, other guys have said it, it's tough to get a guy integrated into the Warriors system midseason. And that's going to be another dilemma they'll have to figure out. So I don't think there's an easy solution here. And I think because of that, the most likely scenario is probably we just hope Clay and Wiggins start to figure it out, which at least in Wiggins' case, you would think would happen. I mean, he's only 28. You'd have to imagine he figures it out eventually, but does he? I don't know. They got to hope so, though, because right now, like you said, Gabe, 2 through 4, 2 through 5, it's just not there, and they need it.
Yeah, the Wiggins thing is just he shot the ball so bad, and in his time with the Warriors, he's been a pretty above average jump shooter. But I mean, he's shooting like 26% this season. Like that's god awful. Like that's just inexcusable. And even a guy like Clay shooting like 36%, which is like, yeah, that's league average, but this is a Klay Thompson that is a notorious 40+% 3-point shooter. And when you add on top just the shot diet that he has, it just makes it that much tougher to consistently win games. And yeah, like you say, like even if like they were to get like a Levine or a Siakam, which is like talent obviously upgrades, but the point that you made, like it's tough for guys to learn this system. You know, even if you have a whole off season, it still takes time, like into the next year to kind of get used to everything. But you're talking about adding somebody mid-season, 20, 25 games in, and then just be like, hey, you got to pick up this system that we've been running for 10 years. It's not easy. It's tough. Now, these are good basketball players that we're talking about, but, it's still not the most easy thing that you could do in the NBA. So it's just they're kind of in a rough spot. The easy thing would just be like, hope guys get better. But, I mean, we're looking at like a fourth of the season, and it kind of hasn't written itself right yet. So, if we get like within the next 10, 15 games and those guys are still struggling and it's really just the Steph Curry show with the bench playing as fine as they have been, this team is going to continue to be pretty much mid, which is what they have been all year.
Dare I say it, they might have to reevaluate this Warriors system. It worked for a very long time, but Steve Kerr's been catching a lot of heat, and I would say almost rightfully so. And it's like this complicated system definitely worked with the whole, Draymond as a passer, Steph off the ball. Like there's aspects of it. It brought them to the 4 championships. Let's not cut that out of the picture, but where they're at right now, I don't know if they're in a place where they should be limiting who they can bring in and who's going to be successful there. Like, if they have the ability to get talent, but it's like this guy might not fit in the Warriors system, I don't know, like, at a certain point, how many times can you really, like, use that excuse? It's just there's no other team where it's like, oh, they just don't fit this system. The only ever time you heard that is, like, with LeBron, where it's like, oh, certain players just don't fit with the LeBron play style. But
or, like, Chris Paul going to, like, Houston and stuff like that. Like,
yeah. But I get it's hard to phrase it exactly, but just with the many holes in Steve Kerr's game these days, how long does this super complicated system become worth the drawbacks if it's not getting the job done anymore?
I suppose the counter argument to that is A, who's a replacement who's better? I don't know who that is right now as far as an obvious candidate. And the second point is, unless there's a massive shift in personnel, the most massive of which being Draymond, because he's the most unique piece of the system, it's pretty tough to really do too many different things that I see being more productive for this Warriors team. I mean, when you have a talent like Draymond, if you want to make the best of his talent, and given the guys they currently have on the roster from a playmaking standpoint, and especially still from a defensive standpoint, they basically have to. They more or less have to go with what they're going to go with. They have to have Draymond be a playmaker for them, for Curry to be off ball as effective as he is. They need Draymond to get involved, because unless they're running Curry and Paul lineups, he's their guy who's going to be playmaking. Defensively, he's still going to do tons for them, because outside of Wiggins and Looney, their plus defenders are very limited, especially as far as the guard position goes. So that's the biggest hold for them, is how do they design a system if Draymond is still part of the team, which presumably he is for the time being and probably is going to continue to be, unless they bring in a guy like Siakam, who maybe fits a bit of a different role but can do some of the things Draymond already does. How do they adjust out of that and actually improve? I don't think there's an easy answer to that, as much as ideally you would just say we need to adjust, which there's an argument for, but I don't know if within the current personnel that actually benefits them.
Right. I'm still in the same, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Draymond is the piece where it's like they shouldn't move off of him if they're looking at like between him, Wiggins, and Clay. I feel like he should be the last guy that they should think about, unless it's just like they're taking that swing for like a Pascal or something that talent-wise might be better on paper. But like you said, how's that going to fit like system-wise? Which, to Gabe's point, I also do agree with that. It's like you can't – at this point, it's like you can't always just look for the fit in the system. You got to get good basketball players that could probably adjust, but you got to kind of adjust to them too, like they did with Kevin Durant. KD could play within the system, but there are a lot of times where it's just like, give the ball to Kevin. We need a bucket. Just go get a bucket, Kevin. Like that's how they operated for, those 3 years that KD was there, or however long it was. So, I'm kind of in the same mindset, but, I've seen teams like that have these cores have to make those tough decisions, like the Celtics in Ray Allen's last year, which was 2011, 2012. They slowly started integrating Avery Bradley more and more and more. And then it was to the point where Ray Allen was coming off the bench. And it's just like, look, Ray's not the defender he used to be. He still shoot the ball, but he's not, 45% like how he was a couple years ago. So we're going to go to the younger guy. And I think Steve Kerr needs to look at that. Like, look, Moses Moody's playing better than Klay Thompson, even though it's in less volume. And Klay's been here all this time. I know we love the guy and everything. Sometimes as a head coach, man, you can't be that attached to players. You got to make that tough decision. You got to make that call like, look, Klay, you got to have that conversation with him. Like, look, we still want you here. We still love you, but we got to bring you off the bench. Or, look, Moses is going to get a lot more minutes, and it's going to cut in your touches and stuff. Like, you kind of got to get out of that. Look, we built this. We have this dynasty and stuff. If you wanted to keep going, you got to make those tough decisions, man. And they've been fortunate enough for this dynasty to be extended. But now it's to that point where, look, we've been stagnant the last couple of years. We got to start making some tough calls. If we want to keep winning, if we want to maximize Steph Curry while he's still playing his peak basketball, we got to make some tough calls. So we'll see if they have the guts to do that. I'm not putting any faith in them to make those decisions, because I feel like Steve Kerr, in a certain mindset, is kind of stubborn in his own way as a head coach. And I don't know how to evaluate Dunleavy and his decision-making in season, because we haven't seen it yet. So, everything for this team is just to be determined for real.
Yeah, I think the stubborn thing is definitely a good word, because I think really the main thing I was getting at is like saying we're not going to adjust our game plan to best utilize the talent that we could possibly get, but rather we're going to make this talent adjust to us. And it's like, that's great when you're winning 60-plus games and winning the title with ease, but when you're in a place where it's like, okay, we have Steph and nobody else is really a prime contributor, yeah, maybe you need to reevaluate that and say, hey, if we can get somebody in the door we need to adjust what we're doing to utilize them. Because you can say, oh, yeah, they need to adjust to, like, make sure Draymond's still effective. Well, the Steph and Draymond game, it's only getting them so far right now. And like you said, what's better that's out there? And I don't know exactly what that would be, but you also mentioned it way earlier, Reek. Like that, the big fumble at the beginning of the end really was that first draft, that James Wiseman draft, and I think it was very salvageable in terms of like some of the trade packages you saw for that, like that classic Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody, some combo, Jordan Poole trade packages that were out there were very valuable, and you saw some really big possible returns there. And unfortunately, it was one of those times where they just held off on making that trade till it was too late. Wiseman's value hit the tank, and you saw what they ended up getting back for him. It wasn't much.
Yeah, that was the best chance they had to really hit the reset button and propel their dynasty forward. And fair enough to them, they did get another title after it, but it definitely wasn't helped by that draft, that's for sure. They definitely missed the boat on capitalizing on some of that value. And now, like we've mentioned, Moody's been playing very well. Kuminga's been playing very well. Shout out Brandon Przemski as well. He's had a very good rookie season. Like, they've done pretty well since then, but that was a really big miss, and that really hurt them. Like you mentioned, Reed, compared to lots of the other talent that was in that draft, considering LaMelo was a pick right after, it's a tough miss. But ultimately, they're just in a weird spot, and we'll see. I mean, as much as they've stuck to this system for so long now, for nearly a decade, better part of a decade, maybe they just need to give something else a shot. Will they? Probably not. I'm not putting my money on it, that's for sure. But if they get to the new year and this is still just looking as bad as it's been, what else do you got to lose at this point? I mean, as much as Curry continues to play well, there's no shot he has this many more years of this. Like, he's getting up there in age. You're only going to be able to count on this for so much longer. So you got to make as good of a run for it as you can over the next year or two. And right now, the roster's just not doing it. So hopefully for Curry's sake, either they, from Clay's standpoint, Wiggins' standpoint, those guys start to improve. If not, hopefully a move gets made, because Curry deserves it. And quite frankly, I think he's talented enough to make another deep run, and I'd love to see him get the chance to do so. But as the way they're playing right now, there's no shot that's going to happen.
No chance. I mean, they're if they just keep the same roster, they'll probably just sneak into the play-in. Like, that's the best I could give them, man. Like, because they'll probably get a little better, but the West looks a little. There's a lot of more impressive teams that are even in their range right now. That is just like, they're not better than, man, at all.
It's a very deep conference. I probably expect Houston to end up falling below them at the end, but the other 9 teams above them right now, I can't really say, oh, yeah, the Warriors are definitely going to pass them up.
I think the other 9 are comfortably playoff teams for sure, assuming health, especially with those 2 lowest being the Clippers and the Pels. If they get an injury or two, as they are a risk to do so from year to year. Hopefully they don't, but that's a concern. Now, the Rockets, I don't know. They haven't won a road game, so I'm not exactly encouraged. But
I saw that stat, or I saw somebody say it, and I was like, I thought they were exaggerating. Like, I thought that, like, maybe they had like a win or two, but no, they're dead ass winless on the road. Like, that's.
Yeah, they had a home heavy schedule to start the year, to say the least. So
yes.
They
went to LA, lost a couple times. They lost in the James Harden game winner. Like, yeah, it's tough. But I mean, look, they're a game under 500 right now, so it's like that's a lot better than what we expected, and at least it looks like they're moving in a better direction. So, the next step will be let's win some road games. Let's learn how to do that. So that'll be the next step for them.
For sure, definitely not a knock on them, considering we weren't exactly expecting them to be this good this year regardless. But if you're a young team winning at home, not the worst thing in the world. You can figure out the road games down the road. That's not exactly anything to ring the alarm bells about.
Man, that isn't. I'm looking at it right now. Literally, they lost their first home game and haven't lost at home since.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that sounds about right.
Yep.
They've been winning at home, to say the least. But
Some real home court.
yeah, give them some time and some more time to gel. More time with the new head coach. They'll get some road wins. They got a road game against Memphis coming up, so that might be a nice chance for them to break that. Although that's going to be pretty close to a jaw return. It might be the game.
December 11th? December 11th?
December 15th they play. So Grizzlies are at 20 games right now. So yeah, by then I think Ja will be back. So
they've been looking okay. They've been looking better.
They've been better. They've been better for sure. Biyombo being in has helped. Santi's had some really nice games. Bane's been tonight especially has been brilliant.
Yep.
So no, they've been okay. They've been okay. They've been a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, they're not out of it yet. I mean, as it is, they're only 3 games out of the play-in. So
look, as long as they don't lose every single game until Ja comes back, if they can split however many games, well, if they go 2-3 or 3-2, they're in prime position, bro. Especially with teams that are ahead of them, like Houston. We're just talking about them, they're a prime candidate to fall off. We don't know what the Warriors are, and even the Clippers have looked better, but they're still within range and stuff like that. You never know what's going to happen with the Pelicans. They could be up and down with guys in and out of the lineup. So with 12 coming back, man, they're going to have a chance. They just got to play really good basketball the rest of the way once 12 gets back, but they'll have a chance.
Yeah, they're going to have to start beating some good teams. And honestly, that Dallas win is definitely a step in the right direction. If you look at the rest of the wins outside of that, it's Portland, who's not good, San Antonio, who's not good, Utah, who's not good. And then really their best win before that Dallas win was probably the Clippers, who aren't even 500.
Well, look, kind of got to take the way that they were playing, those first 15 games, you kind of got to take those, man. Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take those, but if they want to try and salvage the season, then they're gonna have to. They can't just take the bad ones. They're gonna have to, play.
I think they will, because they'll be getting a top 15 player back. Ja's really good.
Top 20.
Okay, top what? I mean, you probably can't name more than 17 guys better than Ja Morant.
I think you could probably get 13 off before you get to debatables.
Yeah, I agree with that. Top 15-ish.
He's in the conversation for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Maybe the way Halliburton's been playing, do you take you take Halliburton over Ja?
I got a question for you guys later. That'll let you cook on Halliburton, Gabe. So
that number one offense in the league. Hey, spoiler alert! Since this isn't even getting split up into videos, I'm gonna just say it now before we get too far gone, because I didn't get to do it last week. Okay, Rika's gonna love this.
Okay.
I gotta acknowledge the truth. Trae Young has been playing elite basketball.
Oh my God, my heart.
Trae Young has been playing elite ball. He started off the season looking horrible. My Hallie better agendas were cooking crazy. My Trae is the 8th best point guard in the league agendas were cooking crazy. But listen, Trae's rebounded in a big way, and the Hawks by no means are great, but they'd be a whole lot worse if he wasn't there. We know that, and for him to finally be putting up some efficient big numbers with that team, very impressive. I got to keep a spade a spade. If he's having these playmaking master classes, these scoring master classes, these shooting master classes, all right. I'm there. He is back into top 5 point guard conversations. It's very close. Him, Hallie, even LaMelo before he got injured, to me were all very similar in this crazy offensive engine who is playing with not great star talent. Hallie's fits him a lot better for sure.
De'Aaron's probably in that range too, I would say.
De'Aaron's doing it too. He's been having a very good season. But yeah, all very similar players. Offensive engines who weren't playing a lick of defense. I feel like De'Aaron, especially on the point of attack, is a bit more of a defender. So that's why I kind of compared the other three a little bit more directly. But now, for as much as I push highly better agendas for my own personal reasons, like looking at an objective standpoint, those three guys, and because I was hard on LaMelo too in the offseason, so I'm not going to let him go unnamed either. But those three guys are all very neck and neck for like that spot. I don't even know what the spot would be because I forget exactly which five I had ahead of them, but they're up there. Right neck and neck.
While we're on the topic, because I was going to ask, where are we at for top point guard in the Eastern Conference list these days? Now that all the young guys have been hooping to start the year.
Man, that's tough. That is tough, man. I'm not going to lie.
We've had Maxey hooping, we've had LaMelo hooping, we've had Hallie hooping. Had a lot of guys soaring up the lists.
I'm still gonna put Hallie number 1. I'm gonna put Trey number 2. I'm gonna put LaMelo number 3.
Brunson's been really good too, man.
I'm gonna put Brunson at 4. I think LaMelo was really playing that good at the beginning of the season.
LaMelo was playing.
We're forgetting a guy.
God, are we?
My number 1, Dame.
Oh,
Dame,
yeah.
I feel like Dame's just been like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's Dame, and like we're all like, I feel like I'm almost becoming numb to how good Dame is at basketball.
No, no one has talked about him since he stopped playing bad.
Dame was low key
under the radar.
He was close to making one of my player shout outs because he's been good. He's been a lot better, and I really think because we have it on the agenda to talk more about the Bucks, so we can probably segue this into that. But like, Dame finally playing better is a big reason for that. Because if you look at this year's Bucks team, they're like the 21st defense in the league or something crazy. Like their defense is falling off a cliff from last year where they were like top 5. So this is an offense-led team now in this new era, this Coach Adrian era. And if he wasn't hooping, they probably wouldn't be winning then if they're led by offense because we know what he does on that side of the ball.
Real quick, Trey in his last 9 games, 30 points, 11 assists, 45, 40, 82 splits. Like that's godly basketball. He's playing great
You said 40, 45?
45, 40, yeah.
45, 40, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to say 45% from 3. I'm like, damn, Trey Young.
But his percentages jumped from 32% from the field to 41. That's a big jump. It shows how bad he was shooting, but he's been pretty efficient.
Horrible.
He's been pretty efficient, over the last 3 weeks or so, almost.
No, yeah, the agendas were flying, but I have to be consistent, man. I was worried about missing all the shots.
I was worried. I know Dev said I'm gonna give Trey another week, and if it's still bad, but hey, I was worried. I'm not gonna lie, because he was putting up all time just stinkers, man. 5 for 21.
He was shooting 2 or 18.
Really just horrible score dates, man.
He was rough last year, and then the first 3 weeks of the year was worse than last year. It's okay, this is becoming a bit of a problem. But
bro, everybody in the offseason, notoriously, Mo would always talk about, people are hating on Trey this much off a down year. Then he came into this season even worse. I'm like, was it a down year or is it regression? And
God, is this who Trey Young is now?
he bounced back.
It's unfortunate that his team is just especially with Jalen Johnson being out, they're just.
It's tough.
Even though DeJounte is kind of taking more threes this year and stuff.
DeJounte's had a good year.
Capella hasn't been bad, but it's just I don't know. It's just something about that team that's so redundant, and they just keep playing this mid basketball.
Yeah, they just got Trey and a bunch of guys with no disrespect intended to DeJounte Murray. If he's your second option, you're just not going to be that great of a team unless you have a true bona fide top 5 guy in the league. And Trey Young's great, but he's just not that, and likely will never be that. So, I mean, like Sadiq Bey's fine, DeAndre Hunter's fine, Jalen Johnson was playing very well when he was healthy, but like they're just a good team. That's just where they are. And it's not really any of the fault of the guys this year. I mean, DeAndre Hunter's continued to go in and do his thing, not improving, but he's doing his thing. But Donovich continues to score off the bench. Kongwu's better again this year. He's shooting threes now a little bit. Like, they're fine. It's no fault of any of the guys there. They're just not built to be anything better than what they are right now. They're a 500-ish basketball team.
Yeah, that stagnation is just really unfortunate to even. Their franchise direction is just kind of just boring. Like which is weird to say because Trae Young is such like whether you love him or hate him, like it's such a compelling player to where it's entertaining content on either side. But yeah, them being mid, like you see the stats all the time. Literally, this like it's been all over Twitter. Like, yeah, they're 1-1, 2-2, 3-3 in their last however many games, and they're not going to be able to get like a real like another star level guy. They're not getting one in free agency. I wouldn't say their trade assets are that great. They're not drafting anybody. It's like they're kind of just lost, and I mean that's for a lot of reasons. Really, like Trae was so good so quick that it like brought them out of being just absolutely dog water. Not to mention a couple missed draft picks. It's like if you just miss on a few draft picks while your number one guy is developing, then all of a sudden you could really end up in a dead end.
Because they had 2 years of like top 10 picks, which was Hunter, Reddish, and Okongwu.
Yeah.
And then they were good after that. And now the best they picked is like maybe like 16 or something like that. So it's a good point, Gabe.
And that great run really wasn't up to any of them. Like, if we're being honest, like Okongwu definitely is a lot better now than he was then. Reddish ain't even on the team anymore, and like he was getting DNPs all the time. So I mean, and then Hunter with injury, like.
Yeah, I mean they hit on 2 or 3 of their picks. It's just they hit and they were fine. I mean, Okongwu and Hunter are solid players, but they just didn't capitalize on also getting their second option, which, I mean, it isn't terrible drafting. It's pretty hard to get a number 1 and an elite number 2 all out of the draft. I mean, there's not many teams that do that. Nuggets are a bit of a rarity for that. The Warriors have done it, of course, although, of course, they brought in KD, so then half of their rings are with a number 1 or a number 2, however you want to look at it, with the guy outside the draft. So, I mean, it's not common that that's the case. Someone usually gets brought in to be that number 2. So they did fine. They were aggressive. Did all their moves pan out? Not necessarily, but they tried. And they tried to put some pieces around Trae Young. It hasn't panned out, but they tried to get DeJounte Murray in to be that second option, and he just hasn't quite been as good as he was in San Antonio. But they're just in a weird spot because what are they going to do? Trade Trae? Probably not, unless he wants to leave. So they might just be a team that hangs out in the middle for a while and tries to make a few moves around the edges. Maybe they try to bring in another borderline star again at some point and move off of a Kobe Buffkin and an AJ Griffin / picks, whether that's Siakam, who's been rumored, whether that's another guy at some point. But that's probably where they're at, because I doubt they're going to give up on Trae at this point. Got to give it another go, I would think.
I'd hate to be a Hawks fan. Like out of any franchise to be a fan of, I feel like the Hawks, like as a fandom experience, would probably be bottom 5. Just thinking about it on the macro level, like they had that streak or whatever where they made the playoffs like 10 years in a row, in like the Al Horford, Paul Millsap era, and it's like they were always good, but they were never like great. Even the year they won like 60 games, had 4 All-Stars, whatever it was, still weren't like a real contender. Got beat pretty effectively, pretty efficiently by the Cavs. And like after being just good but not great for so long, they said, let's finally blow it up and start over. Got Trae almost like immediately. Like they had the one bad year with Schroeder. Got Trae almost immediately. And ever since then, they're just back to being like good but not great, and not even to the same level as they were then, because at least then they were racking up perennial like 4 or 5 seeds. Now they're like getting in through the play-in every year. So it's just tough being in a, like, I don't know if Atlanta's really been rocking as like a serious threat since like Dominique Wilkins? Were they even that serious back then? I don't know my 80s history that much. I know he was good.
Not really. Not really. It took Boston to 7, I think, 1 year, but no. They probably haven't been serious since like Bob Pettit was there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just like the late 50s, early 60s. They kind of remind me in a way of like the end of the Blazers with Dame and CJ. That's kind of vibes I get from them. Like they made that run to the conference finals, which we all like applaud, but it was like, bless you, Gabe. We applaud, but it's like, how real was that? And it goes to show you it wasn't really that real at all. Like they just struck lightning in the bottle. And they're in a very similar situation, except their star point guard is a lot younger than what Dame was at that time. So they're in a tough predicament. Probably if it continues, we're probably not that far along from a Trae Young requesting a trade. I feel like I said that last year too. But
really? He seems like so Atlanta.
I just feel like we're like a year closer to that, man. Like Trae Young, he's such a competitive dude, man. You can tell by the way he plays. He's a competitive dude. He likes talking his stuff.
For sure.
Dude's competitive. He likes winning. So, I could just see like a year or two more of this, and he'll probably just be like, look. At that point, he'll be like, 27, maybe 28. Probably like, it's probably time for me to try and move on and try and win. Because he'll just, if he just stays in Atlanta, he'll probably rot there for his entire career. And we'll be looking at him like, we'll be treating him like how we were treating Dame, like, please just ask out. But, I could see him asking out within the next year or two, to be honest, if this trend of being mediocre continues.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 3 years left. So we're probably 12 to 18 months away if things don't improve. So they got a pretty short timeline here. And unless Trae wants to go and sign a like $350 million contract, which is probably what that extension will be in a few years' time, barring that, now that's assuming he gets all NBA, which is also asking a lot given that we won't even give him an all-star game apparently. But barring that, yeah, as competitive as he seems to be, very much a possibility we see that trade request coming through sooner rather than later.
It's tough to say no to 350 M's, though. I'll say that.
It's very tough.
I've almost changed my mind. Like, over the course of this conversation, I'm thinking like, but Trae Young has such like that just identity of like, Atlanta, like he's that guy, he's the number one, like he's leading them. But the more I think about it, that like super villain identity, bro, what does everybody hate more than anything?
The Lakers.
Somebody runs from the grind and they team hop and they go join up with the other stars to try and win a ring. Trae Young ain't no Laker, I'll tell you that. But I would be very curious to see how that goes because right now, like, so many people hate Trae Young, and so if he went to a new team, I would just want to see how the fan base reacts.
Teams I'm thinking of off the top of my head, San Antonio, if they want to accelerate, Wemby getting to competitive team status.
Magic are a title favorite if he goes there instantly.
I wasn't even thinking about Orlando, but that's nice. A lot of guys sound nice in Orlando, but Trae there, that'd be tough because that's like, that'd be tough. That would help France and Paolo a lot. I was thinking, hear me out. I was thinking the Pelicans. CJ's not getting any younger. He's not getting any younger. So maybe like when that timeline's done, we'd be closer to the Trae Young, either the end of his contract or him asking out. They have the young players. They can make something work, man. CJ will probably still have some money on his deal. They can make something
work with that CBA thing. They had Ingram, Zion, and Trae. I still don't fully understand the like cap rules and the second apron and all that, but like I instantly these days whenever somebody talks about it and it's like 3 stars who are all going to make big money at the same time, I'm like probably isn't allowed.
Facts. That is true.
I don't know if it's rookie maxes or super maxes. I think there is a max on, it might be 2 that you can have. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, they need to do something there because Like Zion and BI as a duo are great. There's no, I mean, BI is a good mid-range shooter, but like you need historically in this league someone who can hit a knockdown 3-point shot when it comes down to it in the postseason, and those guys are just not doing that. Especially if BI continues the way he's been shooting as of late. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So whether it's Trey or someone else, that they'll need to bring someone in for sure.
And it's like they can't play. We've already kind of seen it. Like they can't play Hawkins and Murphy a bunch of minutes together. Like they're at least right now they seem like they don't want to do that because it's like you got to get Herb Jones his minutes. You got to get this guy his minutes. You know, it's tough. Like they got a lot of talent there, but you know, I could see that. Like we get a couple years down the line and they're like we might have to actually like make this big splash. And you know, I don't know. Like I don't even know if BI is on like a real max contract like right now because he signed his a couple years ago.
Yeah, before what his is. I don't think it's anything crazy.
I think it was like 4 for 136 or something like that. Like he signed his a few years ago.
He is set to make $36 million next year, and then is set to be an unrestricted free agent year after that. That's for the $45 million cap hold.
Makes it tough, for real. Yeah, Pelicans, Magic would be really great. I could see the Spurs getting in the mix if they really wanted, like if they don't find that franchise point guard that you know we're kind of wanting them to do so. It could be a team. I think those would probably be like my 3. Everywhere else, like it's kind of too difficult to kind of project down the line, like what their team might look like, what their window might look like, and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. While we were talking about it, as far as Hawks history go, of course, we talked about the Bob Pettit days. They won a title in 58, lost in the finals in 57, 1960, and 61. Their best finals or best postseason success, other than, of course, the 2 conference finals over the last decade or so. They lost in the division finals in 1969-70 season. That was a Lou Hudson-led team. So it has been a minute, to say the least, since they've had real competitive success.
Bro just said they haven't been competitive since Lou Hudson, bro. Like
that's a Garrett, one of Garrett's favorite players right there.
That was one of my one of the players in one of the many games I did with him. I don't know what game it was now, but I did have a Lou Hudson. I think it was against Reek.
Bro.
No, hopefully,
we did a draft on Garrett's channel, and there were so many older dudes that I just don't like. I really didn't know much about them. I had to go to their basketball reference page and just be like, oh, I'll take this guy.
Dev Taxes and Dev mentioned a team or player for the 70s or earlier. I feel like I don't mention old guys that often, but maybe I do.
I don't think you do either.
That's
not that I'd be complaining if I did, but
my boy Jacob he's talking about
I will solely give to Garrett. I'll give Garrett credit for that.
The historian, man.
It's really Death Taxes and Devin mentioning like a 22-year-old defensive role player averaging 15 minutes per game.
Or a crazy contract from the 2013 offseason that had so many ramifications for the next 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds a bit like it. And the Hawks lost tonight too by 1 point. That is if they won, they would have been 500. They ruined the streak.
They'll catch up, man. They'll get to 2-0 and then 2-2. Yeah, they'll catch it up. Them guys.
They'll definitely get there. Speaking of a team that's been hot and cold, let's talk about the Mavericks, because they've been interesting this year. They started really well. One of the best teams in the conference through the first few weeks. Grant Williams was shooting well. Derrick Jones Jr. was shooting well. Grant Williams has seemingly forgotten how to shoot since then. Luka's still been great, but they're better. I just don't know if I'm moved. They're in a weird spot where they've won the games they're supposed to win for the most part, barring the Memphis game the other night. But they just don't seem to be able to win against those good teams. And the defense is better. Derrick Jones Jr. has been a great addition, seemingly better than Grant Williams at times, which has been odd. But that's more so credit to Derrick Jones Jr. because he's been shooting way better than he ever has. But I'll get your guys' thoughts. But they're better, but they're just not better enough. They're just
this is just
good.
who we expected them to be. And
yeah,
look, they got off to a hot start because Luka started off. I mean, he's still been great, but those first couple of weeks he was amazing. And like you mentioned, Grant was shooting like 55% from three those first couple of weeks of the season. Like, obviously, those stuff they're going to cool down now. Grant has been just like bad since then, which is just kind of why he was in and out of rotation like last year in Boston. And seems like that trend's kind of continuing for him as far as just like streaky play, streaky shooting and stuff. But it's probably just who like we expected them to be. I mean, Kyrie's been a little underwhelming, I would say, for the guy that we've seen him be since, he left Boston. Like, he's been a prolific scorer, a nearly like 50, 40, 90 guy a couple of times. Like, he's been one of those dudes the last few years. And this year he's been like, he's good. Like, he's not bad, but it's just like not the Kyrie Irving that we're used to seeing. And that's weird because he's got the long-term deal and everything. So it's like, you kind of expect Kyrie to still be on timing. Now, maybe it's just a slow start. He'll catch up. I would trust Kyrie to do that. But, they've had like, I think I saw a stat. They were like in the bottom third of the league in strength of schedule. And like their point differential and stuff has not been like up to par with the team that had the record that they had. Like, they should have been blowing teams out, but they were skating by, winning like closer games against bad competition. So this is just probably like who the Dallas Mavericks are. Like, they'll probably beat the teams that they're supposed to beat because the guy that is leading the way for them is just too good to lose to just bad teams with the roster, which is better than it was last year. But they're going to struggle to win against those good teams until they kind of find that consistency. They find that identity really outside of Luka. How are we going to contribute offensively? Guys like Grant, Derrick Jones Jr., and others, Josh Green. How are those guys going to consistently find their way on the floor? So they're probably just close. This is just closer to the team that we all probably pictured them to be. But it's good that they are at least winning the games that they should win. Like, I think that's an underrated thing in the league, is like winning those games that you should win, because there's a lot of teams that struggle with like bad teams. Like, they play like close to 500 basketball against the poor teams. But there's enough bad teams in the league that where if you win the majority of those games, you could probably find yourself in the postseason. So at least they're doing that. But guys definitely got to get back to, like Grant got to get back to not 55%, obviously, but what he has been like a 40% three-point shooter in his career. They need that because he was a big move for them in the offseason. They moved off of some guys that would be providing 40% three-point shooting in Reggie Bullock to bring him in. So hopefully he can get back, because I think that's a big piece for them, man. Like, Grant has to be, playing the best ball of his career, I think, for this team to kind of maximize what they can do this season. And Kyrie has to step up too.
Yeah, I'm going to just go ahead and say why I'm not moved at all. And it's really just one main thing you got to look at, and it's just the defense of this squad. Like, the year they were good and made the conference finals, that team was the 5th best defense in basketball. Then you go to last year, where they were not even top 20, fell out of the playoffs. This year, they're a lot better, but they're still like 25th in defense. They're also a team that lives by the three, dies by the three. They're first in three-point attempts. Not that having three-point shooting is a bad thing, but if they go cold, they shoot so many threes, that also usually comes back to bite teams in the ass. It's not the same identity that made them great in the first place when they had that great year in that conference finals run. It's a lot closer to last year's squad. And while it may work better for the talent they have, when you're led by Luka and Kyrie, like, you're going to be led by your offense. Derek Lively, as great as he is on the defensive end for them, he's not to that level as a rookie where he's going to be like a one-man defense or, one of the best players on the squad. Like, this is an offense-led team. And so, yeah, you're kind of playing to what you have and what your talent is good at. But I can't trust a team who plays like that. The main thing for them is they're really good about not turning the ball over, which I expect for their two top ball handlers. But the defense just ain't doing it for me. Like, you can't be a bottom 6 defense, bottom 10 defense even, and really expect to be taken seriously in the postseason. And that bad defense mixed with a high volume of 3-point shooting, but not like top tier shot making. I think, let's see what it says. Yeah, as far as 3-point percentage, they're 12th. So a little bit of inconsistency there. It doesn't match the volume. High volume 3-point shooting and bad defense is primed to be streaky. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And that's not a team that goes far. It really just gets as simple as that for me.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I still believe, although I said it last year to a point, and I believe it even more so this year, they have the personnel where they should be better defensively. I don't think they're ever going to be great defensively. Luka, Kyrie, and Tim Hardaway Jr. are 3 of their top 4 guys in minutes. That by itself is going to make for a pretty tough, good defensive team, unless you have some elite defensive players alongside them, which they don't. They have some good defenders, but they don't have anyone elite. That being said, they shouldn't be bottom 5. They should be nowhere near that. I mean, Derek Lively's come in and been great. Grant Williams, despite shooting struggles over the last couple of weeks, still a solid wing defender. Derek Jones Jr., still a solid wing defender. Josh Green has shown he can be a good defender. He's been disappointing so far this year on both ends. Maxi Kleber continues to be unable to stay healthy, and he was massive for them on both ends of the floor when they made their run into the Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago. Dante Exum's been a positive piece for them, but of course he's not playing much, so his impact is limited. So they really need to get to a point where Kleber needs to be healthy, which seems simple and seems like a complimentary role player who shouldn't have much of an impact. But given how much he does help the 3-point shooting volume and the defense, which is something that they need to put their identity on within this team, the 3-point shooting they're already doing and the defense they need to get better on, they need him healthy. And over the last 12 to 16 months, that just hasn't been the thing. And they just need to continue to get more production from the role players and have the scheme work a little bit better. And Kidd seems to be a guy who lays his cap on the defensive end, and that just hasn't happened over the last couple of years. So there's improvements to be made. I think they can be better. But like you said, Gabe, I mean, it's just not there ultimately. The 3-point shooting is going to be streaky, and the defensive personnel is good, but it's just not great. So unless Kyrie starts playing like some of the best basketball we've ever seen from him, and like you said, Reek, we're clearly not getting that right now, they're just going to continue to struggle because their defense needs this offense to be beyond anyone else in this league if they're going to be at the top tier, and they're just not. So again, I mean, slightly better than what we just talked about with Atlanta, but they've made a shot with Kyrie. They've got good pieces around, but they're just not quite there yet as currently constructed.
Yeah, it's disappointing, especially like some of the guys that, like Josh Green just got his paycheck and stuff, and he hasn't been great. I like how you brought up Kleber, like just how unimportant he might seem to like just like the average basketball fan, but like people forget like what he was doing in that run to the conference finals, like in that Utah series, especially when Luka was out those first, I think, couple games. Like, Mans was stretching the floor, like hitting a lot of timely shots, making it to where Rudy Gobert had to make a decision and stuff. Like, he was so key in that series, especially. But, I think the good thing is like Kyrie, like you said, his play is just so important, and I think he'll get better. It's Kyrie Irving. I think he'll get better.
For sure.
He's allowed to. I think he's allowed a slow start because Kyrie usually doesn't have slow starts. So this is like kind of rare territory for him. I think he'll get better. He's also like trying to still adjust. Like he was only in Dallas for like he played like 20 games I think the back half of last season after the trade. So like he's still kind of new. He's still kind of trying to like find how to play with Luka, and then we add in all these moving pieces in the off season. So him being the player that he is, he's probably like still trying to like pick his way, pick his spots and stuff. I think they'll figure it out, him and Luka, that dynamic. It's just the rest of the guys, how good are they going to be, consistently knocking down threes? And can the defense get closer to like middle of the pack than bottom 5 in the league? That's the most important thing, because I'm not saying this team needs to be top 5 like how Gabe mentioned they were a couple years ago. They're not going to be that, and they don't need to be that. But if they can get to like 17, 18-ish range, like maybe 15 if everything's maximized, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll win a pretty good amount of games and they'll make the postseason. But it kind of starts now. They got to kind of iron those things out. They got to start beating good teams. You can't just beat up on all the bad teams and expect everything to go great. So they got some things to iron out. But I will still say more than the start to the season could have been a lot worse for them. Like, I can say that much, because the way they looked last season, they were losing to bad teams. They couldn't beat like the Hornets in back-to-back games and stuff like that. Like, it could have been a lot worse, but they've been kind of, even though they started like 6-1 or 7-1 or something like that, hasn't been as great lately. But I think they'll figure it out. They got too much top-end talent not to, I would say, hopefully. And Jason Kidd hasn't been terrible. Dwight Powell hasn't been terrible for them this season. So hopefully they just figure everything out.
Yeah, if I'm a betting man, like I'm definitely betting on them to make the playoffs. Like, I don't think they're gonna have any trouble reaching the postseason at all. I think they put enough of a roster around those top 2 guys that it's not gonna be a repeat of last year. It really it comes down to, like, is this team gonna be a contender? And even if some things improve, like Kyrie heats up from his slow start, like I don't think they're there.
I agree.
I don't really know what they do to get there. But yeah, I guess it just really depends on what like their expectations are. Because I mean, yeah, it's the first full year with Kyrie, and we know, like, if you look at the Timberwolves right now, I mean, clearly sometimes bringing a new star in town can take some time to actually make that adjustment. And like you mentioned, only 35 games with Kyrie, not everything's going to be perfect yet, but even if he notches it up to like 27 points per game, still not a contender. And I don't really know where they go from there. Like, get some Derek Lively development that might help him out.
I think that's asking a lot for them to be a contender with like how much of an overall they had like last trade deadline and stuff, and then in the off season. That's kind of asking a lot. I know every team will say like, "Oh, the goal is win a championship." For Dallas, like, realistically, the goal is let's at least get back to playing competitive playoff basketball. And I think if they do that this season, that's fine. That's a W, because we looked at the roster. We were like, we like the improvements, but on paper, like, this team's not going to contend for anything. Like, if they make the playoffs, that's good for them. And that's kind of how I feel. Like, they make the playoffs, they're a competitive team, whether they win a playoff series or not. Like, that's how I kind of judge this team. It's going to take like maybe another offseason for them to get those pieces aligned to where it's like, okay, Dallas is a serious threat in the Western Conference this year.
I do think it should be a realistic goal to at least finish above the play-in. Like, you have a year 6 Luka Doncic, just in terms of what you're trying to build around him for the long term and your ability to compete. Like, you don't want to be still a play-in team when you have guys like Ant and Shea who are great, like top 15 level talents, but not on the level of a Luka Doncic who's top 5. And, Minnesota and Oklahoma City, as smaller markets than Dallas, have been able to put, contending rosters around those guys who are doing really well right now. And Shea, he might also be in year 6. He just seems so young, but he got started a little slower. But still, we didn't really know he was going to be that star until probably like about year 3. So, like, for them to be able to put a contending roster around him, and even if you judge it just 2018 to 2018, or at least 2019 when he got to Oklahoma City, and then Anthony Edwards only getting there in 2020, like, you look at Dallas and it's like, if they're a play-in range team with year 6 top 5 player, then there's going to be some questions about the organization. So, while, yeah, they don't have to be a contender right now, like, I do think there's a certain standard there of, like, yeah, just to show we can adequately build around our star guard.
Fair point.
Do you think the Hawks made one of the worst decisions ever in trading Trae Young for Doncic on draft night? I don't know if we've ever actually talked about this ever on the
I don't
pod,
think
which
we
is
have
interesting.
either. That's actually a good question. As much as people say it's a win-win trade, Luka's just better, and I think I could build even though they're kind of similar modes of player, I feel like I could build a better team around Luka Doncic and Trae Young. So yeah, it might be a bad decision in hindsight, but at least the player that they traded for, like Trae Young's still really damn good. So it could have been a lot worse. It was just like they lost the trade, but it could have been worse. They could have traded him for Jarrett Culver or somebody like that. No shade at Jarrett Culver, but that's how bad it could have been.
Luka has a lot less of those down stretches that Trae has. Like you talk about the entirety of last season and then the beginning of this year, like Luka's lows are never that low. And then by proxy of him just being such a bigger player, I mean it definitely takes away a lot of that defensive liability. So it's definitely not one of the worst decisions ever. I mean, that was probably their best chance to shoot back into real relevancy and contention. But like what they've done to build around Trae, I don't know how good they're really building around Luka. Because as far as market size, I think it's pretty similar. And even like ownership, like I probably trust more in Mark Cuban and what they've got going in Dallas than I do in anybody Atlanta's had down there in the past my entire lifetime. So
I don't even know who's calling shots in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think that the Hawks are going to adequately build around Luka and go to contention. Like I think they're just gonna waste his talents, and I think Dallas sure looks a whole lot worse, but realistically, I don't know how much better Atlanta looks. Like they're still definitely if you just sub out Trae for Luka, like they're still able to make that conference finals run because Luka was that good at that point. Like this was like after Bubble Luka was hitting like playoff game winners in Patrick Beverley's face. Like he was definitely built for moments like that by that point. I will say the other question in chat, which of the top 5 teams would like Dallas in a playoff series? If they face like OKC first round, I think there's a shot just because OKC's young.
Definitely a chance. I think I'd favor OKC, but they definitely have a shot.
Yeah, OKC is the better team.
Dallas. Give me Dallas, man. There's a lot of stock in having the best player in the series and a guy that's proven he's that dude in the playoffs.
For
really,
sure.
2 guys because Kyrie's really damn good in the postseason as well. So,
but
and there's definitely
the Lakers
concerns
are built
for OKC as far as perimeter shot making goes in the postseason because like Shea's great, but they don't have that guy who's hitting a perimeter shot. That's the biggest thing they're missing right now.
And nobody there has experience other than Dort. Dort has one playoff series under his belt.
Them versus Sac, like I feel like they're both just teams that try to out offense the opponent, and I think Sacramento's better at it. I think Sacramento's better at it.
Man.
I think they are too, but I think either team has a chance because neither team is playing defense.
Oh, that's
it's just literally whoever is shooting. It's literally just whoever is shooting threes better in that series.
That's a toss-up, man.
Like that could go either way. They definitely have a chance there.
The Lakers' depth.
I think it depends.
Win that series.
That series depends. Like how is Sabonis playing?
Yeah.
Are we getting regular season Sabonis or are we getting playoff stinker Sabonis?
Dude, Sabonis is probably putting up like I guarantee you in that series, Sabonis is getting guarded by like it'll be like Dwight Powell minutes and he'll just be like super passive. Like that's what I'd expect from Sabonis. Like he's gonna go out there and average like 13, 6, and 4, which isn't bad for
the year's gonna average like 40 in that series, man.
The air would be going crazy.
God,
no one on that team can guard him.
I will probably take out of the top 5. I would pick Dallas over Sac and OKC. Denver, obviously. I agree with Gabe. The Lakers, I think I would take the Lakers over them.
Agreed.
I'd take many for sure. That defense.
I think I'll take Minnesota. Yeah, that defense is great. Yeah. I think Ant is a similar like tier of playoff performer to Luka. Luka's better, but I think Ant. I think Ant could like
Ant's been that
match
good in
him.
the playoffs.
I think he can match him a little bit, like to that level where it's like, yeah, Luka had the better series, but Ant was right there. Like I could see it being that. And then it's like, they also got McDaniels going to make it tough on Luka all series long. He's going to be there. Daniels is going to be there. Like that defense, like you said, Gabe, is serious in Minnesota. So, I think that could be a fun series too, though. I don't think Dallas would really be a pushover to any of those top teams, except maybe I think Denver would.
Denver would smack them. Denver
Yeah.
would absolutely smack them.
They would punch them in the mouth.
Yeah, I feel bad for whoever draws the 6th seed, and it'll probably end up being like Dallas or Sac, and it's like you get that far to have to go up against Jokic in the first round, who's only that low because like Murray missed time, which it's a long season. Denver might even.
I think Murray's back tonight, right?
Yeah. He's been back for a game or two now, I think.
So that's what I mean, but that's him being out's the only reason they were that low to begin with. So. I mean, they're probably going to climb back up.
I don't know. Just say if, like, the playoffs, this thing's like kind of around, like, this range. Like, especially at the bottom half, like, you see Phoenix. They'll probably be better because they've been playing better. But, like, the Pelicans are down there. The Clippers are down there. Even though Golden State, we talked about them, they're down there. Like, how much stock is there in getting the 1 seed this year? It's kind of always like that in the West, but it just seems like – you get the 1 seed, like you might have to see the Clippers, and I don't like seeing Kawhi Leonard in the first round of the playoffs if he's healthy. I don't like that.
You might have to see Steph Curry, to be honest.
Might have to see Steph Curry, and even though the Warriors have been terrible, you still got to see Steph Curry. Like that's just I don't know. I don't know how much stock there is in the 1 seed this year. It's going to be tough, especially if like Minnesota gets it, which I think they've had a decent amount of playoff experience now to where they might be able to really be competitive and win a series, but I don't know. That's just it doesn't really entice me to get the 1 seed if I got to see Kawhi or Steph in the first round.
I mean, the 1 seed in the East doesn't look that much better. Like, you're telling me? I mean, we saw Cleveland looked in the playoffs last year, but assuming they played decent, you're talking about you could see Cleveland in the first round. Miami won in the first round last year against the 1 seed. You want to see them again?
They're at 7. They're at 7 right now, but it just seems like they've been playing so much better than that. I don't know why. They just don't seem like
they just had a hot run, and then they've been decent the last little bit, but they started really bad. So they're kind of hanging out. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a bit more of a gap out east. I'd rather play a Cleveland or even a Pacers or a Brooklyn. Miami might be the outlier, but I'd rather play them compared to the Knicks or the 76ers, whereas out west probably depends a little bit more towards the end of the year where it's like if you get a Pelicans team that got some injuries and starts sliding down the standings, that 1 seed's a little bit more valuable. But if it's a Pelicans team that was injured and now is healthy and starts rising up the standings, it's a little bit less enticing. So that one's a little bit more interesting for sure. That one could have some variables.
Bro, Phoenix at 7,
they've been playing.
If the playoffs started today, you're getting Phoenix versus Oklahoma City. And all respect to Oklahoma City and what they've been able to do this season, I'm taking the Suns in that series. And I was the guy who gassed up the Suns last postseason too, but
I'm not picking against Book and KD in the first round.
That's what I'm saying.
No playoff experience.
That's what I'm saying.
I might. I don't know.
I don't think I could, man. I don't think I could.
It'd be tight. I'm still not bought in on Phoenix's depth at all. So
I'm not either, but
I need another 20 games.
I'm low-key bought in on their shooting, which is nice.
They got guys. Grayson Allen
and Eric Gordon have been good. After that, I have
but
no
Beal
idea.
Beal ain't been playing either of those, so they have a whole other
I think last time I checked, Nas Little was giving him good minutes.
He's been playing a little bit. He hasn't been great. Koji looked good to start the year and then hasn't hit a shot. Utah's been okay, but not great. It's not been overly inspiring. Eubanks has been fine, but
yeah, Big Drew.
They're at the top of the league in blocks.
KD.
I did not expect that for them at all, but they got 3 different guys averaging a block. Eubanks, Nurk, and KD are all
KD. Kata Bates is at 0.8. That's funny.
Nurk stinks, man.
Like, if you ask me
Nurk is
what team is at
terrible.
the
I'm not
top of
even
the
gonna
league
get
in
started.
blocks, I'm guessing 10 teams before I guess.
Yeah, facts.
Phoenix.
Yeah, definitely.
Where does Harden sign after this trash year?
Goes back to the Clippers. They have to.
At that point, yeah.
Who else even takes him, bro?
They've committed to it at this point.
I don't think Harden has a home outside of the Clippers bringing him back, to be honest.
Yeah, now that
Gabe
Houston
said,
looks like a real franchise. Now that Houston looks like a real franchise and that's out the door, like, you don't really got a home. Look at every team he's been on. Like, he definitely ain't going back to OKC. They got too much going on, and I don't think he wants to go back there. Houston, they're finally starting to put it together as like a competent rebuild.
He's
literally forced his way out of Brooklyn.
He's aging so poorly, man. Like, it's rough, especially after all the injuries. Like, once that first step was cooked, man, he just became left-handed, like old Steve Nash at that point.
He's just got such that his scoring game was just so simple. You know, it's just he blows by you with the first step, or you bite too much on the first step and he hits the step back.
Or he gets fouled.
Either that or he draws the foul. Like,
now it's like step backs ain't as efficient. Yeah. Floater ain't as efficient. He's not getting by people as often.
Just not the same. But yeah, no, there's no way he goes back if Kawhi and PG don't go back. But
if that happens,
again, I don't know where else those guys would go at this point either. I mean, not to say the teams wouldn't be interested, but
free agency is just very weird. Like these days, like
it is. Nothing's a free agency signing anymore. It's all sign and trade. So it's a lot harder to pinpoint where guys might go these days.
I could see the Knicks biting on one of those guys. I could see that happening.
They have to make a move. I know I've been saying it for the last little while now, but they got 4 firsts this year. They have to make a move.
Let's talk Knicks, man, because I've been seeing the rumors that they want to be in the market, but I'm like, Levine doesn't move me for them.
No,
I love Levine.
Levine don't move me for nobody.
Also true. Also true.
I wouldn't hate him with the Lakers, to be honest. I wouldn't hate that.
If bro, you could put
depends on what they have to give up.
Team in the league. You ask Garrett, bro. I wish Garrett was in chat right now because any Bulls fan will tell you like Zach LaVine does not move the needle, bro. He does not move the needle.
He's such a good player. He's an efficient scorer, but I don't know.
But he doesn't move the needle.
If he could do one other thing at least good outside of being a scorer, I might have my needle moved. But he just doesn't. He just doesn't. If we could get back to like the little bit of him with Team USA playing good defense, I'd feel differently. But it's like he tried with Team USA for a couple weeks.
Maybe being on a good team would help.
I mean, maybe, but like
I feel like when the Bulls were good, like he was a little more engaged. DeMar was engaged on defense a little bit. Now, they weren't good defenders, but they were trying up until like Lonzo went out and stuff. But I don't know. Maybe that will help because the Bulls, I'll be honest, if I was on the Bulls, I would not be playing a lick of defense because why would I? Like, we suck.
Yeah. They've stunk like the whole time he was there. Minnesota stunk when he was there. Like,
and they got good.
Lonzo Ball came to town and maybe the should not have made them that bad for a year.
Maybe the Hawks should have waited like another year for like Zach LaVine to be available. He's like marginally better than DeJounte.
Yeah,
DeJounte don't guard the same anymore.
So I don't know how that helps. I mean, even though, like you say, DeJounte is not a great defender, but he's still miles better than LaVine is.
They signed up for a very good defender. Like, that's very hindsight is 2020. When the Hawks traded for DeJounte, I looked at it and I said, "Oh, Trey can't defend." Like, I thought really he filled in for a lot of the weaknesses in Trey's game. Like, he was a very good rebounding guard. You know, they could both play make, so it allowed Trey to play more off the ball. He could defend. Like, he had a really good like mid-range game. And so what they signed up for with DeJounte, like, I would have valued that skill set over a Zach LaVine's skill set, even if Zach LaVine is the better player when you're going into that trade market, to put next to Trae Young especially. Trae Young and Zach
LaVine.
LaVine sounds like a duo made in hell.
Yeah, he doesn't really fit. LaVine doesn't really fit anywhere right now, man.
No. He's just odd because, like you said, like if he's with the Lakers and he can be a third option, it's somewhat viable. As a second option, it just doesn't really make sense because like he's a good scorer. What else is he doing for you?
Yeah,
Not much.
As a third guy, I think would be fine because AD does so much like grunt type work, like a third option would do. But you know, I don't. And then what would they have to give up? Like they probably have to give up their depth that's been good this season.
Yeah,
or that they at least have seen that they can be good. Players like Reeves, Rui, those kind of guys. So I don't. He's a curious case. Like for the Knicks, I hope that they don't do it, and I don't think that they will. I don't think that they will. They might wait.
I think their end goal is they're probably still hoping to get Donovan Mitchell. That's probably the ideal. Now, whether that happens this year, that's probably not likely. That's probably more of an off-season to into next season move. But I think that's probably the most likely, and what they're probably hoping happens is they bring Donovan Mitchell in. Now that brings its own defensive questions. I don't love it either because I don't think, like, assuming Randall isn't around long term, which maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but a Brunson-Donovan Mitchell duo is good. It's not great.
It's like Darius and Donovan.
Exactly.
Brunson's a little bit of a better scorer. Darius is a better like playmaker and stuff, but it's like the same.
Yeah, I don't know how moved I am by that. It said LaVine Fitch in Washington. Washington is so unserious, so deeply unserious. I'm looking at that like
I will say
fits right in.
We asked for this. We
did.
No, we did ask for it. We did ask for it.
At least Kuzma's good.
Bad.
Yeah, he's been playmaking really well too, which is
I was very interested. I'm very interested in this Kawhi PG thing, talking about them possibly leaving. If guys like them went somewhere new, I feel like it'd have to be one of those situations like almost like when Brooklyn had like D'Lo in them and that like young team and they sold their soul to get Kyrie and KD. Like I feel like they'd have to just go somewhere and like start something new. Like I don't see an established team that just signs Kawhi Leonard.
Call me crazy. I feel like that's kind of how the Clippers were. Like they felt like that D'Lo team, and then they sold their soul to go and get Kawhi and PG.
I don't think that Clippers team really had a future. Like they didn't know what Shea was going to become, so on paper they probably could have. But it was just like a lot of guys. Like they had like a lot of just like supporting guys, like a lot of good role players, so they were like competitive. But
you can make the same argument for Brooklyn, though.
Yeah,
like they were fine. They were exciting, but like they were never going to be great. They were pretty much at their ceiling.
Like who the hell did they have, Gabe? They had
D'Lo looked like a budding all-star who probably people probably thought at the time was going to continue to progress. That team had Jared Allen, who became an all-star like 2 years later.
All-star, okay, yeah.
So, I mean, I think like if you put yourself in the 2019 mindset of watching that team.
I don't even remember who's on that team. Let me look it up. I'm like actually forgetting who's on.
But I think people thought that they were rising.
They had Jared Allen. They had Karis LeVert. Those were the main guys.
Like I think
Dudley.
Jared Dudley.
Yeah. Chat says like the Clippers were better than the Nets. Then I agree. What I'm saying is the Clippers were just a bunch of role players, a bunch of guys. At least the Nets with D'Lo. Put yourself in that 2019 mindset. People thought that D'Lo was finally budding into that number 2 pick level prospect.
I'm be honest with you, brother. This team was ass.
Bro.
They were like a 5 or 6 seed at best.
This team was pure ass.
Maybe I'm just a D'Lo truther, man. I don't know.
I am too. He was great, and I wish the Nets would have stuck with that. I really do, but well, at that time, I did. They did what they could to try and put themselves in the best position. But listen to this team: Jared Allen, DeMarre Carroll, Alan Crabb. Do you know what school he went to, Gabe?
Hey,
Cal
absolutely the fuck not.
I've never heard of Mitch.
They got Rondo.
He was in the overpaid class of 2016.
They have Rondo on that team.
No, Rondo's not on that team. Ed Davis, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Dudley, Kenneth Faried was on this team. Travion Graham, Joe Harris, Rondé Hollis Jefferson was on this team.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember Rodney Kurutz. He was on this team.
Yeah.
Levert. I don't know who that is. I forget how to say this dude's name. Musa. That's his last name. He was on that team. Shabazz Napier, Theo Pinson, D'Lo, and Allen Williams. That team was ass, bro.
Okay.
That team was terrible.
But listen, either way, that was not even the main point. Let me get back to the main point. If like say Kawhi leaves the Clippers and goes somewhere else, like, or there's just like stars that leave a team and they just go start like a new project. Like, what team is the candidate for that? Like, what team is we're going to start a new era, bring in these free agent type guys? Like, what team is like competitive, but it's just like a bunch of guys and they're like, yeah, we can just get rid of all this and start a new era.
The first thing I'll say to that is that I don't think anyone can really do what the Clippers did. Well, maybe someone can do what the Clippers did, but no one's doing what the Nets did anymore because no one keeps that much cap space anymore. So, like, no one's signing two dudes in free agency anymore. You could maybe do a Clippers version. There's usually like a team or two that'll have max cap space. So then maybe you can sign a Kawhi and do a trade for a Paul George, but it's not going to be a very common thing.
You don't think Chicago could do it?
I don't think they can. I don't think they can. I don't know if there's a world right now where there's anywhere near enough pull for those teams. I think the Nets are a candidate, funnily enough. I think the Hawks could bring in a guy. I don't think it's likely, but I think logistically it's an option. If Miami had the money to make it work, I'd say yes, but I doubt they're going to. They seem very unlikely to want to get off a hero.
Yeah.
So I don't think that happens. So the Knicks are probably an option because they're just always an option because it's the Knicks and they're always in the rumor mill. This summer it makes a little bit more sense logistically, but
I agree.
That's about it. I don't think the Bucks have any logistical way to do it. I know it makes sense because they're a contender, but
Pacers?
The Pacers are interesting. Financially, it gets a little bit interesting. I don't exactly know how their payroll works with guys going into the summer because they don't have a ton of high salaries going into next year, I don't think. But
I think Tyrese's hits this offseason.
Yeah, and obviously they're not moving off of him. I don't know if they have a ton of cap space, but I don't think they have a ton of existing contracts to move off of because Buddy evidently is not under contract anymore unless they do end up exciting to extend him. So, they will have some cap space, but they don't quite have max cap space. Assuming they pick up Bruce Brown's team option next year, they're going to be at about 118 mil. So. But yeah, then like Turner's making 20 mil, Bruce Brown's making 23 mil. But after that, it goes down to TJ McConnell at 9.3. So they're in a pretty awkward spot as far as matching salaries go. So I think the logistics on that one are a little bit tough.
So we need a league expansion is what you're saying.
No, we do need a league expansion for a lot of other reasons, but that's a whole other story.
Podcast was I watching? Might have been JJ. But basically, they were saying, like, expansion makes more sense than ever because those expansion teams probably won't be that terrible.
Oh.
Just because, like, the amount of talent that's in the league, like, they probably won't be that bad.
But when there's no teams who are free agent players, it's like you need somewhere for free agents to go if they don't want to stay on their team to still make big money.
Yeah,
let them go to Seattle. Let them go to Vegas.
Yeah, I feel like GMs, though, would be smarter to trade for Kawhi and PG, though, because they're near the end of their primes. They are injury-prone guys. I feel like they won't give up that much tangible assets, like good assets, to get those guys in. Maybe a pick or two, but that's all I could really see. I would hope GMs would be smarter than to mortgage their future to get, those two guys at this stage in their career. If this was like 5 years ago, I get it, but right now, like, no, I don't see that
you would hope
being in their best interest. Yeah, but teams are crazy. Like Chad says, like GMs make terrible decisions and choices like that all the time. The Warriors, no.
You might have to go to the Yankees like Juan Soto. I've been told to talk about Juan Soto to the Yankees on the pod.
I was really hoping we got a Shohei Ohtani signs with the Jays noti tonight. That's kind of what I'm hoping.
Baseball is crazy. Would Shohei like signing somewhere new? Is that like equivalent to Bron making his decision in 2010? Like, is that obviously not like the potential backlash, but just like that status of player moving teams at this stage in his career?
Hey, I'll tell you what. If Shohei Ohtani said, and I know there's a 0% chance of this happening before you say anything, if it came out tomorrow, Shohei Ohtani is a Cincinnati Red Leg, bro, the whole city of Cincinnati is like flipped upside down, rocking. Like, I think as far as like how much impact it could have to a team.
Give it up, brother. Give it up, brother.
Bro, I said there's no chance it happens, but I'm just saying as much.
Y'all, the city of Cincinnati got Joe Burrow. That's more than enough, man.
For how much impact it could have to a team and a franchise and like a city, I do think it is the most impactful possible free agent move.
It's down to the Blue Jays and the Dodgers?
Correct. At least reports would indicate that. So yeah, I would say so too. Like, yeah, if like obviously not as much impact as Cincy, but if he goes to Toronto, that's wicked. I mean, like the Dodgers is like obviously it's still gonna have an impact, but like LA's got a lot of dudes. The Dodgers got a lot of dudes. Like it's not the same. Whereas like if anyone in Canada attracts any major free agent that isn't in the NHL, that's kind of neat. Because the Raptors ain't acquiring shit. Like, hell, Schroeder's already got an argument for our best free agency signing in like a 25-year history. Pretty piss poor. Damari Carroll was that guy, and then he was terrible. So that's where we're at.
Two Damari Carroll
comes
on the same podcast.
Dang, suddenly I'm not allowed to be from Cincinnati, man. He said Cincinnati Reds nuts. I can't, bro. I promise you, if I was not born here, I probably wouldn't be a Reds fan either. They haven't been relevant since 1990, and I was born in 2002.
Well, they made the playoffs in like 2010.
But they made the playoffs in like 2021. That doesn't mean they did shit once they got there.
And I think they got no hit the very first game of that 2010 playoffs.
Bro, when they made the playoffs. When they made the playoffs in like I think it was 2021, Trevor Bauer was cooking. He literally pitched like 11 no-hit innings or just shutout innings against Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, how do you pitch 11 shutout innings and lose? The Reds' offense was that horrible.
Cincinnati, man.
I bet Ohtani would love Skyline too, bro. Hey, hop off Skyline's nutsack, bro.
He would be on the first He would be on the first flight back to Tokyo, man. Go get some real food.
Bro, stop. He would never go back to. He'd be bringing Skyline chili back to Tokyo.
God, he'll go through those Ohio winters. He'd be like, man, I can't do this. He's out.
Bro thinks they don't have winter in Japan. What?
I know they do. I used to live in Japan. Of course they got winters there. It's actually kind of worse. I ain't gonna lie. but like Tokyo's a objectively better city to deal with winter than Cincinnati.
I always forget about my favorite British friend Reek, man.
Man, we're a very diverse ethnic podcast. We got Canada, England, and Cincinnati, Ohio.
It's about as good as you're going to get for NBA conversations.
Did we talk about everybody we were supposed to talk about today? We didn't talk about
I haven't
Phoenix
looked at
that much. We've been jumping a lot.
We mentioned them. We said they've been good. We mentioned their shooting.
You could have mentioned how San Antonio is ass. Do San Antonio or Detroit win before January 10th when they play each other?
I've been saying in the office for the last 2 weeks, I don't know if Detroit wins a game the rest of this calendar year. I think I said it last week on the podcast too.
I think the only game they have a chance in is Utah mid-December. That is the only game they have a chance in.
They just got blown out by Memphis.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And Duran might have picked up an injury, which I hope he didn't, but he did look like he picked up a pretty bad ankle injury late in the game.
Are we about to see Monty get the John Beeline treatment and get fired midseason in the 5-year deal? Are we about to see that happen?
You said Monty get fired mid-season?
Not gonna lie, he might have to at this rate. He might have to.
No way.
I know I've not been his biggest fan, but Sarah Thompson's getting 16 minutes tonight.
Look, man, listen. This is all I'm gonna say, man. Pistons fans can say all they want about Dwayne Casey. Dwayne had them fighting every night, man. They were at least trying to fight, even if they were winning 16 games. They were trying. This is just pathetic, bro. It's just bad basketball.
That Carolina Frank Wright treatment.
Real talk, man. I like Monty. I think Monty's a above average head coach, man. But it seems like more and more every day. Maybe Phoenix was right to get him out of there. They might have had the right idea, man. It's just seeming more and more.
Vogel does have them looking decent. Surprisingly, Vogel has them looking decent on offense. I thought Vogel was supposed to be more of a defensive guy, but that's what he was on the Lakers.
I think he's a quality head coach, man. I think if you give him talent, he'll win games.
Oh yeah, he got scapegoated for sure in LA. He had them winning the title.
Exactly. He was a big reason to why they were as good as they were. But
yeah, I don't know what to trade, man. If you're trying to be competitive and playing rotations that are very intentionally not prioritizing some of your young development and instead you're prioritizing being competitive and you're this bad and Ivy's minutes are all over the place, Sarr over the last week and a half has fallen out of the starting lineup and his minutes have been all over the place, at least if you're trying to be competitive, at least be competitive. I can live with it. But you're losing games sad, and you're not prioritizing your young guys. It's one of the two's got to happen. If they lose 20 games in a row when Sarr and Ivy and Cade are getting minutes and playing well, it sucks. But I can somewhat live with it.
20 games is a lot.
But this is bad. This is really bad.
Maybe the process Sixers lost around this many, but
I think so.
Other than that, we got to go back to 2011 Cleveland. I don't even think that Bobcat team lost this many games in a row. They were bad, but they didn't lose. I don't think they lost this many games in a row. They might have lost 16 or something like that. But they had 19 now?
I think so. The 76ers lost 28 straight games spanning 2 seasons between the 14-15 and 15-16 season.
Okay.
The 2011 Cavs had 26.
26, yeah.
The 13-14 Sixers also had 26. Those are both one season.
And the Bobcats had 23.
Oh, so they were this bad. I know the 2010 Nets lost 18 straight to start the season.
Yeah.
Man, for some reason, I feel like the Pistons are worse than all those teams, man. Cleveland was coming off of losing LeBron.
Dude, the longest recent one
stunk.
In 2020, in 2020 to 2021, the Rockets lost 20 games in a row.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
But didn't they also win 10? Oh no. That was the
7 or
next
8
year, I think. Yeah,
the next year.
No, because 2021, that's the year they get Jalen Green in that draft.
Yeah, that was the Harden's 10 game.
Yeah.
Victory party, leaving. Yeah, but still, man, this team is more. They should be better off because I don't know. The first 3 games of the season, they look quality. Really, the first 5 games of the season, they look okay, this might not be the worst team in the Eastern Conference again this year. They might win 29 games or something like that. That's how decent they looked. But now they're on pace to win 10 games this year.
Yeah.
And that might be generous.
I think the Lakers go to a monster starting lineup and start Rui at shooting guard and Vando at small forward.
Bro, this ain't
That's
2K.
nasty.
That is a nasty, and I don't love it. I'm gonna be honest. That is
Yes, the
in
Nets started
very
0-18.
small bursts if they need a defensive stop. Okay, outside of that, definitely not.
Bro.
I think the spacing is instantly chalked.
That sounds like a 2K my team.
Shooting
like,
is chalked.
All those juice cards like Rui, shooting guard, small forward. Vanderbilt, small forward, shooting guard.
You need
cards.
like a stop in the fourth. Okay, maybe. That's about it though.
With Braun at the point guard. They're going to have Braun at the 1, 80 at the 4, and like Jackson Hayes at the 5 or something like that. Like, let's just go no space, all grid.
No space, no pace, no nothing.
No movement, just a bunch of big guys on the floor at the same time.
Nah, the Lakers don't need to change up nothing, bro. They're a good team this year.
I feel like they've been playing fine basketball.
They're a 4 seed, and I feel like they started off a little bit slow, if I recall correctly.
They did. Like they haven't been like
for them to
they're
be
the best in-season
like
tournament team of all time. They're amazing there.
Oh, okay.
For real. That's what got them going. They were struggling until then.
Yeah, no, they're
LeBron has a title to play for.
They're pretty efficient as a team.
Torian Prince has kind of stunk since the first few games of the season, but
good rim protection, good about fouls. I mean,
and they've missed some guys. Radish was out for a little bit. Vando, they just got him back. I think. God, who was I about to say? Somebody else missed time too. I just forgot their name, but they've missed some guys too. So
they have.
You know,
they have. Russ might be better than 9 point a game, Torian Prince, but not on the Lakers. He's not. Not on the Lakers.
This is really just who Torian Prince is. He usually shoots better, but this is who Torian Prince is. A 9 or 10 point per game scorer. Usually shoots better, but that's who he is. And he has a lot more of a defensive role. So
historically, he's been like a very long stretch streaky shooter. Like he had some good stretches in Atlanta and some bad stretches, and then before he really started at shooting well again in Minnesota last year, he had a really long stretch where he was bad, and then last year he was really good. So it's just kind of the way he's been. He'll have 40, 50, 60 game stretches where he goes hot and cold, which is really odd. It's not something you typically see, but he's kind of been that guy throughout his career. So hopefully the Lakers get the start of his hot streak with the back end of the season coming. But
honestly, trades. I don't know if they make trades. If they do, I think it's like a backup big type of like something small, but maybe makes them a little better.
With the Lakers, I think I might be ready for him to for LeBron to hit that 40K, man. That'll be the highlight of their season, I think, without a doubt.
For sure.
You don't think they have any playoff success on the way?
I think they'll be pretty okay. I think they'll win a series. If I look at that Western Conference, if the playoffs started today, they beat Dallas in round 1. But
I trust them a lot more than like 80% of the teams that are in the playoff hunt in the West.
I think the only team I clearly have above them is Denver.
It's just
Denver. I think after that, there's a lot of teams kind of in the same spot. Like I think the Lakers have a chance. I think the Timberwolves have a chance. I think the Suns, if they're healthy, have some amount of a chance. I think there's a lot of teams there that I have some question marks about, but they're in with some amount of a shot. I think Denver is clearly above all of them, but I think the Lakers are kind of in that next tier.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're like a tier 2 Western team. I'm like half just talking out of my ass when I say like, but I do think the LeBron 40K will be exciting. Like, they'll win at least one playoff series. They have a good chance to win 2. Yeah. I don't know if they're in that top tier like Boston, Denver, where Milwaukee looks to be getting to now.
think right now it's
Minnesota might be legit, man.
I'm gonna give them, if we get to like 35 games in and they still look this good, that's when I'm gonna buy in all the way.
Yeah, I definitely need to see a little bit more. The thing for me come postseason, of course, I mean, it's no secret, is just going to be matchups. Like if they're against the Kings, I think they smack them because Sabonis is not spacing Gobert. They just don't have that. Gobert is going to be a threat. McDaniels is going to continue to do his thing and steps up defensively. Nikhil does his thing like he's been doing defensively. Like they just do everything. They're not impacted defensively by what gets thrown their way by a team like Sacramento. But even the Lakers, same thing. But you start playing a Denver, and now Jokic is consistently on the 3-point line. You play an OKC, and they don't really have a guy that you can completely sag off of unless maybe they throw Gobert on Giddey and see how that works. But that's a bit of a tough matchup. So that's the biggest thing consistently for Minnesota because Gobert is great, but there's certain matchups, as we know, where it's interesting. So that remains to be the biggest thing.
I got to give some flowers to Cat real quick because he started the season bad, but last 13, he's shooting 56 from the field, 51 from 3, 91 from the line, 50, 40, 90 for the year, 25 and 9 a game over the last 13. That's a decent sample size too. He really has written those first few weeks woes that he was just couldn't hit a 3-point shot, but he's been a lot better, man. So I got to give credit where it's due there. It still looks somewhat engaged on defense, too.
Yeah, he's probably the best I've seen him on the defensive end. Cuttings look good, drives have looked good, but as good as they've ever been. I still like a little of the experimentation him and Gobert got in the high-low game, so I like it, man. He's been playing well for sure.
Hey, talking about contenders, I was just scrolling down my Twitter timeline, and I've not watched enough of them super recently to like have a for real set take on this, but I was seeing a lot of Drew Holiday slander on the timeline. And Rick, I needed to ask you, what's going on with this Drew Holiday slander? Like what's the whole deal
here? Bucks fans. It's Bucks fans.
Okay, so
that's probably where your source is from.
As a Celtics fan, you are
Drew's been fine. Okay. He's been more than fine. You know, I feel like you see a lot when he's not on the court. How much they miss him. Like when he was out of the Orlando game. I mentioned it last week, like how much they missed him. You know, just in certain spots in the game, man. And
definitely.
You know, his numbers, like they're not gonna pop because you're playing with two guys that have averaged over 26 points per game in a season before. Like you're playing with two top level guys, and KP needs his touches too. Derek White's more of a factor scoring the ball. So like you're not getting a 20 point per game Drew Holiday anymore. That's just not who he is.
No. I mean, you could argue he's the fifth option on this team, and that's probably a good thing.
Yep, exactly. Like they don't need him to be the third guy like how he was in Milwaukee. They just need him to come in, pick your spots like when we need you to, like, make the most of your post touches. If you got a good matchup, take care of the basketball, get the ball to Tatum in his spot, get the ball to Brown in his spot, work with KP, and play stellar defense, which is what he's done so far this season. So yeah, don't listen to Bucks fans, man. Bucks fans are.
Hey, I told you. I told you it was just some hate on the Twitter timeline. I was not trying to hate, but I just wanted to ask to see where you were at because
valid question.
I got some hate for being skeptical of the Celtics acquiring Drew Holiday. But I did make sure to say it was because of how he looked in the postseason and like for a couple postseasons in a row. So him being just fine in the regular season was a part of my skepticism. I did expect him to be fine now.
If he's a liability again with like as Dev mentioned, the fifth option, that's valid. That's valid concerns. If he's like pouring the postseason again and his defense isn't as impactful, that's a valid concern. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We'll see how he looks when it gets to April and so on.
Yeah, Adam, we were a little wrong on Houston, man. I didn't expect the Toyota Center to become the hardest arena to win in basketball.
Hey man, shout out to Adam for humbly telling us that we were fucking wrong.
I respect it.
You know what? Dylan Brooks, we dropped a video about it. Dylan Brooks was right. We were wrong.
We did, man.
Like, he won that divorce. The Grizzlies are ass, and the Rockets are decent. And honestly, like, we talk about they can't win shit on the road, but winning at home, you know what that tells me? That's culture. And you know, my boy Dylan Brooks, you know, he brings
Center be Rocket.
He brings the culture in, man. And the Grizzlies, they unfortunately lost theirs. They don't have that. Marcus Smart, low-key, he started making them look a little decent. But
he's been out for a minute though.
I just saw like he gave him some like fucking timeout speech or something. People were like, he's doing this, and it made him look a little bit better versus they were comparing it to like the Pistons. They're like, they don't have that veteran presence talking him up or something.
But now we was talking about the Rockets earlier, like, you know, even though like they're a candidate to like kind of fall off a little bit, that's fine because they've looked more impressive in these first 17, 18 games than they have in the last 3-4 seasons. So, you know, shout out to Houston, man. They're riding the ship the right in a good way, man. And even with like Jalen Green not taking that leap. You feel me? Like Jalen Green hasn't taken that leap. Şengün's been amazing, but you know they still got room to grow for sure. And winning on the road is one good way to start.
Şengün is a beast, bro. Low-key though, I've heard some backlash. I've seen some backlash on the timeline as well. That people are like, "Oh, as soon as the Rockets look decent, y'all want to give everybody else the credit except for Jalen Green. Like he's been better." He's been
fine. He's been okay.
I think he's been better than what he was before. Is like because they just at least he's not doing it in AAU frame. Work.
Like that was the sad definition of empty stats. What he was doing, like 23 points on like 40% shooting.
And out like him having 15 points tonight in a win. Bet
that's character building.
I'll take it.
I prefer that.
I'll definitely take that. He started really hot. He's cooled off a little bit, but he's definitely shown flashes, especially to the start of the year, where he can be really efficient and actually play within the offense. So I'll take it. I mean, he's shown he can score. That's not a question. So I'm definitely more encouraged by seeing the fact that he can play within the offense and get his own without just ISO balling 20 times a game. So I'll definitely take what we've seen so far.
Rebounds. Jabari Smith, 18 rebounds tonight is absurd.
I like how, like, I've heard other people talk about it, but how Jabari's kind of handled, like, Jeff Green being the crunch time, you know, forward a lot of times in their rotation. And, you know, he's handled it well. He's, like, always up on the bench, engaged and stuff. So, you know, that's a good sign for somebody that was a few hours before the draft supposed to be the number one pick. Just like a year and a half ago. Like that's a very, very good sign of a guy that has like a really good mental space, man. Like that's a good sign for him to have that kind of maturity.
What a flip by the Magic though. Like I ain't gonna lie. Jabari can look as good as he wants, but Orlando making the swerve to say, I'll take Paolo.
I'm surprised. Yeah. I'm still like shocked that it took them that long. Or maybe they just knew and they were just kept keeping it under wraps. But if they didn't and it took them that long,
why would you keep that under wraps? If you're like number one, like why would you keep that under wraps? Like if you changed your mind at, I'm trying to think of like somebody who was supposed to go like number two. Like
OKC made it. I mean, OKC made it pretty clear they were going to take Chet.
Right.
Yeah. So it was like,
but even so, if you're number one, like you're not like. I guess the comparison might be like, imagine if Orlando did what Boston did in 2017
and traded back,
where Fultz was like the guy, and so Orlando is like, yeah, Jabari's the guy. They trade back to 3 because they know Chet's going 2. They say, hey, yeah, we'll let you guys get Jabari at 1. They trade back and they get Paolo at 3, and it's like now you get an extra asset, and it's just, you have the same roster but with extra asset.
But even then. Well, that's actually a good point because I don't think it was really understood that Boston wanted Tatum that bad.
It was actually it's the exact same thing almost because the number 2 guy was like we knew the Lakers were getting Lonzo.
Yeah, it's very similar because that's a good point. It's just like I find it hard to believe because Dev knows it too. As soon as you turn on the Paolo tape, you watch 3 minutes of that tape. You're like, oh no, this is the best
guy.
This is the best player in this class. This is if you want a franchise guy, this is the guy that you take. He has the best chance of being that guy. You just watch 3 minutes of his college tape. And he wasn't even like that great at Duke. He was cool. He was good. But you watch the tape, like, nah, that's the dude. And you watch Jabari's tape, you're like, he's going to be a good pro. But franchise guy, probably not that. So I find it hard to believe, like, it took them until a few hours before the draft to be like, nah, Paolo's our guy. Like, I feel like they knew.
They had to.
Definitely
There's
knew.
no way. They had to.
They definitely knew. Like, maybe Gabe, you're right. Like, maybe they were trying to keep it under wraps because it's like, maybe, Houston is thirsty for Jabari and they trade up and they draft him. And they give you like 2 extra picks or some shit like that. Like maybe that was what they were thinking. They're like, oh, it's not happening. Hey, whoa, we want Paolo now. Like that's probably how it went down.
Yeah, that makes sense. They probably try to do what Boston did. That Houston didn't bite, and then that actually makes a lot of sense how that probably unfolded.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, they took the right guy, but no, Jabari's definitely had his moments. I think he could get overshadowed a lot within that team just because, Şengün's breakout, Jalen Green's just always going to have the spotlight on him, and then Dylan Brooks being such a controversial figure coming in, like there's just so many other storylines on that team. I mean, the guy only took like 4 shots tonight or something as their number 3 overall pick like a year ago, which might not be not great, but he found other ways to be effective, which no matter what you're doing is definitely a way to establish yourself a role and establish yourself some PT.
Man, he's just coming in and doing what he needs to do. Like you said, rebounding was good tonight. Defense continues to improve and like quietly way more efficient than he was last year. He's up from 40.8 last year to 50.6% from the field this year, 36% from 3. Like not getting a ton of touches, like you say, because there's a lot of mouths to feed in Houston, which was one of our noted concerns this summer and remains to be that despite the fact that they're playing well. But he looks comfortable in his role, so could definitely be a lot worse scenarios to be in. That's for sure.
I just pulled up the doc, and we have been all over the place. There's like hella teams we didn't even touch on.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned.
We kind of talked about the Bucks earlier. Like their defense hasn't been great, but Dame has been amazing, especially down the stretch. Giannis is who he is. I'm a little concerned about Chris Middleton though. Like I'm starting to ring a little bit of alarm bells for me. Just a little bit. He's only playing like 20 minutes a game.
Right.
I'll never be concerned about Chris Middleton. I will never be concerned. This man's playing. He's playing better. He's playing better than he was last year, and he balled out in the playoffs last year. I'm not concerned.
Look, he's been efficient. He's like their net rating wise, he's their best player and stuff. But I don't know. Just a tad bit concerned, man. I need to see him get really ramped up, man, because if they're going to go toe to toe with Boston, even though Miami's like middle of the pack, if they have to see them again, they need Chris Middleton to be that dude. Like he can't just be a faded third option. He got to be still low key Chris Middleton. Like be ready to be the guy if you need to be, man.
He's playing that Iguodala ball right now, man. He just coast the whole regular season, come out in the playoffs.
Might be fine. I hope that's the case. I really do, for their sake.
That's the thing is like, I agree they need to ramp him up, but probably in like 3 months. It's just not worth getting him injured the way he's been the last couple of years. So I'm more than fine with them continuing to use him how they are, continuing to keep winning basketball games. So
I'm concerned about that defense though.
That's a valid concern.
I'm a little concerned about that defense because it's really like the whole dynamic of their team for real shifted. Like before they were like a cool enough offense, but like that defense was really what was it. And
top 10
now
on
it's
a
to be
bad
more
year.
now it's to like be offensive led and the defense be like I said, like 21. It's like bottom 10 defense winning a championship. How often do you see that? Not often.
You could argue maybe we haven't seen that. I would think.
And I think there's
Yeah,
like some
it's been a
outlier or
while.
something, but it's very rare.
It's definitely rare for sure.
Well, maybe maybe the Cavs team that won it in 16, maybe.
And like they still have. I mean, is that just the Drew Holiday effect? Like, because I mean, the rest of their defensive core,
is.
like Giannis
It is,
and Brook Lopez, are still right there.
It's a big part of it, but I don't think they're going to be anywhere near as good as what they were with Drew Holiday. I mean, that's just evident. There's no way they're going to be,
They
but
don't have the personnel.
I do think they can still be middle of the pack.
They've been better since they switched back to playing drop coverage full time.
Yeah.
They've been better.
They have. And they're still sorting out what they're going to do with the perimeter with Dame being involved. They're still dealing with having a new head coach. And although he's not like the defensive guy, Jay Crowder has been out for a significant portion of the season, which is a big part of what their wing defense is going to surround outside of Giannis, who has been playing a lot more on ball this year, which is another new thing that they're trying to adjust to their defense because he's not just been a rover sitting on the weak side like he typically has been over the last few years. So there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things they're trying to adjust. So the fact that they've looked better over the last couple of weeks is enough for me to say that give them another 10, 15 games once Jay Crowder's back. Maybe they look a little bit better. I don't need them to be great because, like you guys say, the personnel's not there for it. Drew Holiday being gone, it's going to hurt. But just like we were talking about with Dallas earlier, if they can be middle of the pack, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that for them.
Yeah, that was my lone concern when we talked about them after the Dame trade. Because a point of attack defender, when you have those guys that you got to play drop coverage with, is very important. And look, I respect Malik Beasley for wanting those assignments, but let's just be honest, man. Effort's one thing, and I love guys that give effort even if they're not good defenders. But if your best guy is going to be a Malik Beasley on ball, it's a little bit of a problem. It just is. But like you said, Dev, like if they could get to top 15-ish, maybe sneak to top 12 if they could make it all work that way, they'll be fine because Dame adds a different dynamic to that offense. And with the potential of Chris Middleton getting fully ramped up and stuff once we get to, March, early April and stuff, they'll be more than fine because Giannis is that good. He's that good of a playoff performer. Dame's that good of a playoff performer. They'll be fine, The only other real concern is a first-year head coach is a little bit of its own mystery. How will Griffin respond once we get to those games that really matter? That's another interesting dynamic. We saw Joe Mazzulla took a little while to kind of adjust in the postseason last year, so that's another dynamic. But they got a lot of experience in that team, and a lot of new pieces too that they're trying to iron in, into this team. So I think they'll be fine. It's definitely a good sign that they've gotten better on that end of the floor. We'll just see if that can continue as we get deeper into the season.
I feel like I'm almost less concerned about new coaches over the past decade or so. Steve Kerr came in, was successful pretty much immediately. Tyronn Lue in Cleveland, successful pretty much immediately. Nick Nurse, even not finals winning, but Ime Udoka, Mazzulla, there's a lot of guys who have came in and made it very far right away. So even with the coaching change, I don't expect that to hold them back. I will say the fact that they have the full year with Dame is a little bit better of an omen than say the Suns with KD last year, because we always say if you trade for a star midseason, you're not going all the way. So theoretically they should have a chance, and I think if we're saying that they do have a chance by that logic, I think they at least need to make it to top 12, because you can say adjustment period all you want, but
I was thinking that too, okay.
If we're thinking this team has no reason not to be a contender, and we know historically teams that win titles have top 10 defenses, I mean, if they want to win a title, I mean, that's just mathing it out. You gotta get that defense up a little bit, and now they got a bit of a ways to go. NBA, they just updated the website. They're at 22nd now, and it's like bottom 10 defense. It's not a recipe for success.
No, they're 19th over the last 2 weeks, so they are climbing slowly but surely. But the other thing I want to point out for them too is obviously like we've mentioned, the last couple of years it's been defense first, offense has been the concern. At least this year, where they've pretty much flipped the script, they're very much positive in the other direction, because the last couple of years it's been, can they hit enough threes? It's always been the question, is do the role players hit the threes? Does Giannis get enough from the perimeter to keep a defense honest? That was always the biggest thing. And more often than not, when they struggled, the answer was no. And this year they've been great. I mean, Jay Crowder shot the three well when he's been healthy. Malik Beasley's been great from three, 46%. Will that continue? I don't know, but he is going to be a good three-point shooter. There's no doubt about that. Campaign's found a shot again. Beauchamp's been shooting really well. So they've got that figured out, outside of obviously Dame being a good shooter. So that has corrected itself. That seems to be no longer a concern. So at least they're now going into this back half of the year, once we get a couple of months further forward, where we can say, okay, we're just concerned about the defense, and it's not still the three-point shooting and the defense. So at least they've got that sorted with this collection of players and this roster construction. So at least they are now at a point where they're not dealing with both issues anymore.
Call me stubborn. I still got to see it in the playoffs, man. Because I feel like, I don't know, it seemed like last season, like they were shooting better, and then they got to that Heat series. Obviously, Giannis got hurt and stuff, but just wasn't the same. Everybody outside of Chris Middleton was bad shooting the ball. So I just got to see it. I got to see it. But it is a good sign that it looks drastically better. And adding Dame on top of that, which is one of the ultimate floor spacers in the league, like it's a good recipe. But definitely got to see it once we get to April and stuff.
Yeah, last year in terms of three-point percentage, they shot 36% on the fourth highest volume in the league, which was like the 10th best efficiency. So like solid in the regular season, but this year that's jumped up to being a 38% three-point shooting team. So I mean, a pretty substantial jump there, good for sixth in the league on a little bit less. Like they're getting closer to like 10 in terms of attempts, but still like pretty high up there. So I mean, almost a 2% jump, like might not seem like a lot, but in terms of like league averages, I mean that is pretty substantial.
That's a ton. That's a big jump, to be honest. Because like we even mentioned like Klay earlier. Klay was shooting 41% last year. He's shooting league average this year. Like 5 percentage points may not seem like that drastic of a drop off, but it really is that big. That's that many more missed shots on the same volume. Like it's crazy how percentages work in the league, man.
Yeah, that can be the difference between having a job and not having a job in this league.
Exactly.
You're a
this year the Bucks have taken
shooter who can defend on the wing. You're a valued commodity. You shoot 31%. Yeah, you might be sitting on the end of a bench somewhere.
Like 36% is like 4 out of like every 11 threes or something like that. Like it doesn't seem crazy, but that's league average.
Yeah.
Last year the Bucks took 3,300 three-point attempts.
That seems insane, bro.
If that jumps by 2%, I mean, what's that, like 66 more threes?
It's a lot.
67 more threes? Like that's
almost a 3 more per game, man.
Yeah. Close to a couple hundred more points from three.
Man, when you get into those close games, man, you know.
Şengün, he could be in the running for most improved. I just saw that comment.
He definitely could have a shot. I'm very much unbothered by who wins it now, because Jalen Johnson narratives are dead, sadly. So. Look, not that there was anyone pushing that narrative, but I was going to push it because he was playing well enough for it.
Austin Reeves let me down. Obi Toppin's had his moments, but man, I was looking. I might go like I might not pick an award winner this season. Maybe Dagenau got me. Maybe. But Jamal Mosley might have something to say about that.
Dude, I sold so hard on my boy Cam Thomas, man. I should have.
Yeah, what I was thinking, why didn't you pick Cam? Even though he's just getting back into. I think he's back, but damn, he's playing so good.
I said because of his inconsistent minutes, I didn't want to pick him. I don't know if it was on Kia Threes, we were doing like every team's X factor, and I said for the Nets it was going to be the Cams because they needed offense, and outside of Mikal, it was going to be like those guys as the top guys, and I think I ended up picking Cam Johnson as one of my guys for the most improved award because I just assumed his minutes load was going to be more consistent, so his numbers were probably going to look a lot better over the macro scale. But it's like then this season they finally decided to give Cam Thomas those consistent minutes. And I mean, I know we hate giving it to like, year 2, year 3 type guys, but it's like Cam Thomas from year 2 to year 3.
He doesn't count. He doesn't count. That's more so if it's like a guy who's like a top 10 pick.
Like a lottery pick type guy. But I mean, going from 10.6 points per game, so many DMPs to literally 26 points per game, like that's ridiculous.
28 pre-injury. Yeah.
No,
you should have just picked him because this is the one year where like Jalen Johnson didn't seem crazy. Seemed feasible.
It ain't even shot checking either. Like his 3-point numbers are down a little bit, but
I mean, he put up them
because
shots
he's up.
but
he's up 4 attempts, and his field goal percentage is higher than last year. I mean, I don't know what his true shooting and everything is, but it's efficient enough, and the Nets aren't horrible. They're like a solid team. They're a pretty damn good offense. From what I recall, we were talking about them being like a top 10 offense or something.
Yep.
Yeah, they have the number 2 offense in the league over the last 2 weeks, number 6 on the year.
So I mean, the sixth best offense in the league, and he's averaging 26 on there. He's definitely a very important player. He might be my most improved pick right now, man. I'll just say that.
I would probably have to go with Maxey. Motherfucker's been so good.
Dude, Maxey was just so good last year already.
He was, but man,
he's taking another jump, which is crazy. But
yeah, that's a league that's worthy of MIP, man.
Yeah, it's harder than I at right now. He's currently the favorite per a non-specific sports book because we're not #added, but he's first, Sengun's second, Scotty is third, and Cam Thomas is fourth.
Yeah, if Cam didn't get hurt, I could see that game, but he missed just a few weeks. He was out for a while. So
Scotty's letting me down, man.
I've seen his numbers have regressed a little bit.
Yeah, he's still been really good, but he's definitely not quite what he was.
Pascal decided he wanted the fucking ball back, and now Scotty can't do his work.
Which shows even more why the Raptors should.
They need to trade that guy, man.
I forget what night it was. It was sometime in the last week. I think it was mid-game. Ujiri was on for some sideline interview or something, and he said something to the extent that we're still just waiting to see what we have. It's like, bro, we've had the same core for the last 3 fucking years. What are you waiting to see? Bro. We all know what this team is. We know what we're getting. It's very mediocre production. There's nothing to wait and see. What are we waiting for? It's very odd.
Let me put it like this. Reek, you're a Celtics fan. You know how for the longest time people said that Brown and Tatum would be one of them would be good, but it'd be the other one wouldn't be so good, and the narratives ended up being false, ended up being just fine together.
Yeah.
All right, so imagine if those narratives were true. Mm-hmm. That's Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam, bro. They're never good at the same time. One of them is good, and the other one.
What makes it worse? One of them's 30, and the other one's 22. Bro, makes it that much worse, man. Which is it's unfortunate because when Scotty was cooking, that made me want to watch Raptors basketball. Now I'm just I like Pascal, I really do. I think he's an underappreciated player in this league, but like you said, this is just the same. We know what you guys have. It's the same team, man. It's unfortunate. Yeah, Masai, he's a little too prideful for his own good, man. He's like the type of guy that would just like he will get every ounce of his gas tank used until he refills it up. He'll use every single drip of gasoline.
Which is interesting because it's the type of move you like typically expect from a GM who's scared about job security and wants to just play it safe so they don't get canned. Whereas like even if Ujiri just completely screws it up in Toronto, he's gonna get a bag somewhere. Like it's not a concern. And even if he does screw it up in Toronto, we still probably wouldn't fire him. He'd probably just leave eventually.
He's got that
wouldn't
Danny
have the balls to
Ainge.
fire him. Like
He's got that Danny Ainge security, man. Like
exactly. Like what is there to risk? Like you're not. It's not like it's a situation where you're a new GM in the league and you're holding on to a Nikola Vucevic and an Aaron Gordon to remain an 8 seed every year. Like there's none of that here. Like why not go for a big splash?
You know, man, I figure guys' pain in a different sport. Like I see my Saints doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, that GM over there, he's been there for so long, he's made so many good moves, but it's like to the time where it's just everything's stale. And you got some young pieces, but it's like, what are we trying to win right now? Nothing. Like there's nothing that we can win right now. So it's like the tough decision has to be made, but the people pulling those strings, they don't want to do it. They got too much pride to do so. It's just it makes for a bad product on the court, on the field, on the diamond, on the ice rink. Like it just makes for a bad product in general. So, you know, I definitely get it, you know, from a fan's perspective because it just sucks. It makes you not even want to watch the games. It's just like, well, I know what I'm watching for the 300th time in the last 4 years.
Let me be real. Like when the season started and Scotty was popping off and Pascal was like being phased out of the offense, wasn't doing nothing. Bro, I was so excited to watch Raptors basketball.
I haven't seen
like I would for real,
in a while.
Dog. Because, like, I'll turn on the game. Dude, I'll literally turn on the game, get, like, halfway through, and I'm just like, I just don't even care. Like, it just went right back to, like, just the same old shit. Just the same. I'm low-key, it's turning me into a Pascal hater, bro, because why is he still on the team? He's not a bad player at all. Like, he's still a very talented, very good player, but
he's still an all-star caliber guy.
I'm actively becoming a hater because he's just preventing the franchise from going anywhere or doing anything.
And it's like there are teams that would trade for this man. Probably give up decent assets to get him.
He just be crying a little bit too much on the court, I ain't gonna lie. But that's a different story for a different day.
He's probably frustrated being there, to be honest.
I mean, he's basically the only reason he didn't get traded this summer, so I don't know if I can agree with that. This man was saying he was not going to extend anywhere, so it's like, if you're telling everyone you're not going to sign an extension, you're signing yourself a year in Toronto. So
I hate his body language sometimes, bro. I hate his facial expressions. I'm like, bro, he just stop.
I feel the same way with Jason Tatum. He cries so much on the court, it just like irritates me.
I can't imagine being a Mavericks fan, bro.
Bro, oh my God, I would be so pissed watching Luka every night. Like, he's so good, but man, that would make me so mad, bro.
Luka, stop fucking crying to the refs and get back on defense.
Like he'll really like throw a turnover, think he got fouled, and then just run up the court or jog up the court next to the ref and just talking to him the whole time. Like, bro, just get back, man. Just get back.
It's absurd. It's Pascal Siakam has ruined my passion for Raptors basketball.
He took.
I actually have noticed that the more Pascal Siakam we see, the less I care about Raptors basketball. Which I feel bad because like he is objectively a good player, but like I obviously very much got into the Raptors during the Lowry DeRozan era. Then Pascal like came onto the team during that. Was obviously super hyped during the Kawhi year. And then like the year after that, when it was like, you know, Pascal was doing really good, but Lowry was still there. It's like, okay, I still cared a lot the bubble year. And then, like, after that, the most I really cared until, like, Scotty started popping off was, like, when Pascal missed that first quarter of the season and, like, Van Vliet was hooping like an all-star. And, like, that was kind of exciting for Van Vliet to make that jump. And it's like, yeah, when it's just Pascal, like, running the show, I just feel so uninterested. I don't know what that says about me as a fan, because I know there'll be a lot of people who are like, yeah, my favorite players are the 15 players on my favorite team, and then starting off with number 16, that's the next guy. Like, they'll be like, my favorite player besides anybody on the Lakers or anybody on the Celtics. Bro, like,
that's me.
My favorite player, like, at this point, bro, there's so many other players on other teams.
I don't even know my favorite players right now, man.
There's so many players on other teams I like more than Pascal Siakam. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, Curry and Halliburton are my favorite players not on the Raptors. I like watching them a lot more than I like watching Pascal Siakam right now. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I'm a Raptors fan through and through, but I don't think my favorite player in the league is on the Raptors right now. There's just...
I don't think mine is on the Celtics for real. I like Tatum.
Bro, I'd rather watch DeMar right now, and he ain't been in a Raptors jersey in 5 years.
But like all my like guys, like favorite guys, have always not been a Celtic since Rondo left. That was like the last guy that was like a favorite player that was on the Celtics. Like, Isaiah Thomas too. That was my guy. But like I'm Harden,
DeMar's my guy, but I ain't
Chris
watching
Paul. I love De'Aaron, Trey, Markel when he's healthy. I think I said it, but Ant's creeping up into like my top 5. He's up there.
I feel like Ant's creeping up into everybody's top 5.
He should be.
I was about to enter my LaMelo fandom market, then he got hurt. That was quite sad.
Yeah, I feel like I'm
he drew me in.
Big
I'm a Chet
believer now, man.
Yeah.
I'm a Chet propaganda pusher.
Yeah, Chet's really fun to watch. Paolo's probably the guy who's risen the most for me over the last year or so. Paolo's definitely one of my guys.
That's fun.
I've always been a Zion guy too.
And a Wendell guy. So the Orlando fandom allegations are not being helped, but
I've always liked Zion too, even when he was at Duke. I was a big Zion guy.
Zion's success just makes me happy, makes me smile.
Definitely.
I like seeing when a real point guard gets minutes on the Spurs too. That makes
me very happy.
Zoe rose a lot for me in the last before his injury.
Definitely.
Like Ant Simons.
Yeah.
Cade's my guy. Love Cade.
Yeah.
Can't watch him though because that team's so bad.
Big Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels guy too.
I'm a Trey.
Throw Alvarado in there. I love all those guards in New Orleans.
I'm a Trey Murphy guy through and through.
Yeah, Trey Murphy is fun. Trey Murphy is very fun.
I like Trey Murphy too. Jordan Hawkins. Gary Trent. Gary Trent's been my dude. That's been my guy, man.
Pull up. There we go.
Simmons.
Probably not. I was gonna say I'm probably not far off ending the stream, but I had to wait until Garrett pulled up.
Reek is a Heat basketball, Heat culture fan. Now he's got the Javi Jaquez agendas to push.
I do like he was on my player shoutouts. Actually got the numbers up since he started playing more minutes. Yeah, his last 13 games, 15 points, 4.5 rebounds, 3 assists, 50, 47, 79 splits. He's been great.
Are the Heat a real NBA team?
He's making them. He's making them that, man. He's been great. Other guys I had, Aaron Nesmith. His is just for this season because underratedly been really good. He torched the Celtics the other night. 11 points per game, 55 from the field, 45 from three, man. This is the guy that was like a 52% three-point shooter in college. And he's finally finding his way. He got his bag, which we were all a little surprised. Not that he didn't deserve to get an extension, but we were just surprised that he was one of the names that ended up getting an extension. So shout out to Neesmith. And my last guy was man, the disrespect's always very loud with him when he's bad. Early in the season, it's like, oh, he's shooting tour dates. He's terrible. They need to trade him. Julius Randle been playing really good basketball, man. Last 14, 25 a game, almost 10 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 49 from the field, 33 from three is not great, but better than what he was shooting. And 76 from the line. Like, he's been playing really, really good basketball over the last few weeks. So those are my guys.
I like it, man. I like it.
I got to shout out just all the teams who advanced to like the in-season tournament semis as well. And it's more of a shout out to like the tournament itself. I was a very big skeptic of like, why would anybody care about this at all? But the players really bought in, and it's clearly made the product better. And it's like, it's regular season games that finally feel like they have stakes. And it does feel like playoff environment, even though it's not the playoffs. And like, you know, that Pacers-Celtics game, like great games. You know, Suns-Lakers very down to the wire. Like there's been some real good basketball played throughout this in-season tournament, especially even just the aspect of like the round robin games where it's just, you know, teams are up 20 points, but they still got to play hard. Like I think that's just a new interesting dynamic and a new interesting way to view the game where it's like, you know, just because this team's going to win, they still have something to play for. And it's like, you still got to play hard through, you know, the final buzzer. Like I just found that so interesting. And I made a tweet about it one day, but I think it was because like the Celtics were up like 20 in a game or something, still playing hard. But I've definitely been sold on the in-season tournament, and it definitely helps out a lot that, you know, Hallie and them boys took out the Celtics that are going to Vegas.
I mean, between the play-in and now the in-season tournament, people have been skeptical, but Silver and whoever he's got working with him on those definitely know how to cook up some interesting concepts to draw in some more interest. I'll give them their credit for that. They've done a very good job twice now, and they've had a lot of skepticism both times, but they've been at least up to this point, and I would assume moving forward, certainly with the play-in, and even though we're not through the first full in-season tournament, seemingly seems to be a resounding positive from fans and players. So they know how to cook something up. I'll give them that.
Next season or next step is fixing the All-Star game.
I don't know if that'll ever get fixed.
I don't know.
I don't think they can fix the All-Star game. The injury concerns are too much. I don't think people are ever going to play hard, like physical, like super heavy defense in the All-Star game ever again.
I like how baseball, for a number, I think they stopped doing it, but their All-Star game determined which league got the home field in the World Series, and I thought that was kind of dope.
That was interesting. Not to say that there isn't injury concerns, but it is a sport where you can buy in a little bit more to guys trying harder. Obviously, guys might not go for like diving catches in the outfield and whatnot if they're doing something crazy, but like batters are going to swing. Pitchers are only going a couple innings, so it's not overly taxing. So it's a little bit easier to manage that one compared to most other of the major American sports. But
I'm always pro adding stakes. Always pro adding stakes. When they said like adding some other reward to winning the in-season tournament beyond just like financial stuff, which I ain't gonna lie. Some players want the money. Like Giannis didn't even know they had money. That was a crazy thing.
Because like some guys, this is like a third of their salary. Like Nemhard, it's like a third of his salary.
Yeah. But I love like the idea of securing a playoff spot, or, you know, maybe securing a draft pick. Like I think somebody said, like, say you got like a guaranteed lottery pick, and like maybe the first round is like 31 picks, and whoever wins the in-season tournament, like there's a specific pick, maybe it's like, I don't know, like 10 or something, or just another like lottery ball. So it could be anywhere from.
Would that motivate the players though? I was thinking that too, but would that motivate would that motivate the guys? Because how does
Well,
that help?
it seems like the guys are already motivated,
Well, then
but
what's the argument to add an extra incentive?
I guess
I think the only thing that could benefit is if
the
it
viewing
experience was like a guaranteed, like at least at worst playing spot or something like that. Like that could probably motivate guys a little bit, but I don't know. This is probably I think it's worked out fine for the first year. A lot of the games have been competitive. That first night, well, really both nights of the quarterfinals, felt like playoff atmospheres, man. Like those were some really good games, some competitive games. So for this being the first iteration of it, I think it's been a W, man. It's got people caring about basketball in November, which this is prime NFL, college football playoff season, and people are caring more about the NBA. You know, we're getting like 1 million viewers per in-season tournament game, which is like you don't see that for a regular November Tuesday night NBA game in November, man. You just don't see that.
Garrett said it'll stop the March April tankathons. Like we don't have a team on a 17 game losing streak right now, and another team on like a 12 to 14 game losing streak in San
Third might
Antonio.
be pushing 15.
Yeah, I think it might have been at 15th after tonight.
Yeah, I think $500,000, man. I mean, yeah, these are NBA guys, but $500,000 is a lot of money.
Low key though, but like the teams who made the knockout stage, like seeing like the Lakers and Suns make it, like that was what really shocked me because those are the teams like the guys who are making money or like older
The
guys
big
who
guys
already
are,
made
but
money.
they got a lot of guys on minimums. So they got a lot of guys who are coming in outside of the stars who really care, as opposed to a team like the Knicks, where now given they did also do pretty well, but just as an example, they got 8-9 guys who are getting like 10+ mil a year. So comparatively, they got a lot of guys on the roster that are really impacted.
Even like Halliburton, man, that's like a tenth of his salary that he's making this year. Like, it's a lot of money.
It's definitely some real coin for sure.
A lot of bread, man. I don't hate it.
They need
Maybe up the ante in the future. Like the more money this makes, up it a little more. Like maybe that's how it improves. I just can't see them tying like, a playoff spot or something like this.
No, I don't. I hope they don't. It needs to be its own entity.
Yeah, in theory it sounds okay, but yeah, I agree, Dev. Say the Bulls did the worst in the season tournament, even if you are the 8. The Bulls.
I don't know if I really follow your point, Garrett. I might be missing something, but
yeah, I do not understand what is like. They have
you might be cooking, but like it might be too late for me to understand what you're cooking.
I think what he's saying is having like your lottery odds among the teams in the lottery, like the 14 lottery teams, whichever one of those 14 lottery teams does the best in the in-season tournament, they have the highest lottery odds. And of the 14 lottery teams, whichever of those 14 teams did the worst in the in-season tournament, they have the worst lottery odds.
I think that makes it a little too confusing for me, man.
Yeah, I think it's a bit confusing. It's tough too because it's such a small sample size of only being 4 games. Not to mention the fact the 4 teams you're playing, at least from, I mean, obviously who you draw is a bit of luck, but based on what pot you're in is based on what the team you're now on did last year in terms of what pot you're in, which seems a little bit unreflective of that current team. So I don't know if there's a way to get around that, but I don't hate it, but I think it's a really small sample size to judge that on. If it was like an 8-game group stage, okay. I mean, it won't be because that's an absurd number, but and I could get a little bit more behind it. But
plus, like no other leagues have like soccer leagues have major stakes tied to their in-season type tournaments. Like,
yeah,
I know the FA Cup doesn't have any stance. It's just like, hey, extra hardware, you won this. Like, I think that's what Adam Silver's trying to and whoever helped them make this. That's the idea that they're trying to instill. Like this, they want this to be more than just competitive games. They want this to actually mean something.
Yeah, for sure. And even still, you could argue compared to like the FA Cup, there's an argument that there's more buy-in already because there's a lot of top teams in that competition that'll just roll out the bench for however many of the first few rounds until you get down to the last few rounds of the tournament. So,
like Champion League, they take that shit serious. That's almost as good as winning your own league.
Oh, for sure it is.
Yeah, it's definitely a good turnout though, as far as like, you know, the teams that made it. Like, it's clear, like the top teams, like they could have just said, like, especially like Boston and Milwaukee is like some of the top contenders. Phoenix, LA, like a lot of these top level teams who could have said, yeah, we don't care about this. We just want to get that ring. I mean, they took this seriously, and those are half the teams who made this. The only team who's like a real outlier is probably like New Orleans, who are still competitive every single night. It's not like there's some like 13 seed who just randomly decided to be great for like 4 random games. It's like,
I think them and Indiana are in similar boats for real. Like,
agreed.
Mid-tier playoff teams, but this is where they can excel for real, because especially the Pacers, because they play tournament basketball as it is, just with that pace and stuff. So, yeah, I could say though, like when it first started, we didn't really talk about it much, and now we're talking about it for like 20 minutes on the podcast. Like, so it's done its job. It's piqued interest for sure.
I think, and this is what I've realized too, because it might sound like a weird comparison, but bro, I was watching some AEW, some wrestling, and they started like a round robin tournament, like the same style type thing. And I didn't understand the value of like the round robin tournament because I'm just like, what are the stakes? Like, what does this matter at all? But how I said like the point differential stuff was really interesting to me. I've realized that any sort of round robin tournament just gets better the longer it goes. Because at the very beginning, it is like we don't know what matters yet. But then you get to that like final game in the round robin section before you get to the knockout stage, and it's like, oh, like this team needs this specific result or they're out. And that's just it. And it's built to get better the longer it goes. So it makes sense that it's peaking in interest now with, you know, like where the Celtics are pissing people off because they're still trying to score up 30 and the other coach doesn't know why. Like those added stakes just come naturally. And it's like, if you get to next year and the first 2-3 games of the in-season tournament are once again like, well, I don't really know if, and all of a sudden it's game 4 and it's like, oh, all of a sudden this is the greatest basketball product you've ever seen. That's going to be why.
Tatum was saying, he was on Evan Turner and Iggy's podcast, and he was saying like he told Torrey Craig when they was up 30 going into the 4th, he was like, man, I don't want to be out here. Like basically saying like, I'm sorry that we're still out here and we're about to try and win by 30 points. Which I kind of understand why guys are like iffy about that right now, because they're used to, oh, if we're up 30 points going into the 4th, I'm in my jumpsuit and I'm getting ready to just go back to the locker room after this quarter is quickly over. But now it's like guys are playing like the majority of the 4th quarter because you got to win by 26 points if you want to advance.
And yeah, DeMar DeRozan has been my guy since this moment I started following basketball, but I was not rocking with him like crying about them trying to score when like the game is over or whatever. That
you got to understand the rules, bro.
Yeah.
Like just the whole point, like the point differential is one of the most important things to the tournament. But like stuff like that, like comments like what he was saying and getting so upset about that is actively devaluing the point of the tournament.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're trying to build this new concept and people are playing along with it and going with the concepts and not like undermining the fucking point, and then you want to come out here and make comments about it and say, why would they do that? Because they don't want to undermine the product.
Also, hate. I feel like that's an unwritten rule where guys get fake mad over. Like, you're not really that mad, bro.
For real.
Like, remember, DeMar did that back in the day with Lance Stevenson. Him and PJ Tucker tried to, like, bully Lance Stevenson.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that deep.
Even then, like, that doesn't bother me as much, him getting mad about it, because what did it matter? Like, why would the Pacers need to score more points in that situation? But, like, in the in-season tournament, when the point differential matters, yeah, you play to the end of the clock.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, for all we know, DeMar may not have knew shit. Like, he literally might not have known, and he might have been just out there hooping. Because I could see DeMar being that type of guy.
Seemed like a lot of guys were kind of in the dark about the rules and stuff.
Giannis, he didn't even know what the reward was. He was just fucking playing basketball.
LeBron, though, he's like 500,000. I need that.
Yeah, LeBron, this billionaire. LeBron is definition of live broke.
How do you think billionaires get that rich? They are cheap people.
That's another $500,000 in the investment portfolio. That is,
bro. Fucking LeBron don't even pay for Spotify Premium, dog.
That's half of his body care for the year, man.
He's still averaging what, 25, like 7 and 6 or something crazy.
That's insane, but it's to the point where it's just like, I'll be more surprised when LeBron doesn't average 25.
Yeah, I will be more shocked at the fall off. That's for sure.
Yeah, the efficiency's what's been crazy this year. It's at 55% from the field and 39% from three.
Good God, that 3-point shot came back out the fucking woodwork.
Crazy how that foot injury really impacted him last year,
man. Bro, he wasn't shooting like this before the foot injury. Come on.
Yes, he was. Well, what's his percentage?
This is the second
39.
highest. This is the second highest 3-point percentage of his career. The only season better is 2013 Miami.
But he took like 1 3 a game that season, so that don't even count.
3.3, but yes.
Him and Wade went like a month stretch without attempting threes, bro. Like, that was insane. I feel like the year he averaged 30, I feel like he was shooting like good for LeBron.
It was 36. It was on 2 more attempts that he's doing right now.
That's really good for LeBron.
Yeah, that was a good shooting season for him too.
Yeah, 39 is a little absurd. That'll probably chill out. We'll probably get back to like
for sure. That'll definitely correct a bit.
God, LeBron's only shooting 69% from the free throw line. Come on, LeBron. That's some Skip Bayless shit. He's gonna be like,
never been. He's like
LeBron.
70. I wonder what I'm about to look up his career high.
That's some stuff he got better at the last couple of years. He was at like 76% ish the last couple of years. This year he's back down to like 70.
Bro, he's been in the 60s. Well, his last year in Cleveland. No, first year in LA, 66, 69, 69. And then a couple years good, and now he's back to like where he was before.
Yeah, nah, he's a 70% guy.
His best season was 78%.
Bro, why are like most of his best free throw shooting seasons early on? How did he get worse?
Giannis has been that way too, so who knows, man.
And it's not like he was attempting like more free throws or something. Like he started attempting less when he got to Miami.
Yeah.
Dang, LeBron he was a foul merchant back in the day.
He might have the worst whistle of any star player ever.
Crazy.
So how does LeBron not attempt like 10 free throws per game?
Because he don't be selling that shit, bro. He don't be selling the contact.
It just doesn't look like he sells the contact.
Bro,
he's 270.
Because he's not selling it.
He's way too strong compared to everyone else. It'd be so obvious if he was selling it.
That's why. That's why they be calling him LaFlop, bro. Because if he does sell, it is so obvious that he gets caught out. It's like Embiid out there, bro. Embiid gets away with it, but when Embiid's flopping, like, bro, it's so fucking obvious because he's 7 foot, gets pushed by a dude the size of Isaiah Thomas and goes to the ground.
Like, if Embiid ever attempted 6 free throws per season, which Bron has done every year in LA, except for his first season, that would just be alarming.
Yeah. I mean, rookie Embiid was at 7.9. That tells you everything you need to know.
Bron hasn't attempted double-digit free throws since 2009, 2010 season. It's been that long.
That was before he had any rings. That's crazy.
He hasn't attempted more than
that shows that foul baiting does not equal championships. That's what that tells
I agree, but it's like you would think LeBron out of all people would have more of a respectable whistle.
Yeah, you talk about star whistles. Like, it's like the biggest star in the literal 21st century of basketball.
Talking about he can't play in the 90s. Bro, you don't even get calls in the 2010s.
Hey, defense now is still better than defense in the 90s, bro. They just you have to be skilled. You can't just hack people.
Jordan's worst free throw season before Washington was 7 per game. 7 attempts per game. That was his worst.
That's ridiculous.
Ron hasn't attempted 7 per game in like 6 years.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's crazy. One of these years,
what was James Harden doing back then, bro? Like, he was going fucking crazy with the free throws.
Bro, imagine Bill Laimbeer on a switch with LeBron.
That would be crazy. Yeah, Harden was consistently around or just above 10. Pretty much.
He almost got to 12 in 2020. Good God.
Yeah, he
the
was
best
really
offense for like the last 10 years was a Harden ISO.
For real though. For real.
Bro, Bill Laimbeer would be bagging groceries after they see LeBron torch him on the island.
No doubt, man.
He cooking Anthony Mason too. Rest in peace, but he's cooking.
Would slam him into a daycare center? No way, bro. Just look at MJ and like LeBron side by side, bro. Like, LeBron is just so much more bulky. Like, MJ was a pretty slim guy back in them days.
What, MJ was like 205, 210?
Bro, like, just from a physicality standpoint, like, I don't know, man. MJ might be like Rey Mysterio. LeBron might be like Randy Orton, bro. I don't know.
Crazy. But Randy Orton's built like a fucking tank now, man.
Randy Orton looks like Brock Lesnar out there, bro.
He's got to be on some juice, man. Has to be.
He probably was. I mean, when you have like major surgery like that, part of the recovery process.
Yeah. He looks like a tank, bro.
Hey, I mean, he's calling himself daddy these days, and I gotta respect it.
Interesting choice of words.
Game is game.
Every grocery that LeBron tried to buy. It's like he tries to buy all his super teams. Is Garrett bringing the Twitter trolling into our chat?
It would seem on brand.
Udoka, whose career high is 21 points per game.
Let me ask Garrett about his bum ass Bears, man. About his bum ass Cubs.
We go to Chicago this week.
This is true. I got Laporta going to Chicago. You got to win to get into the playoffs.
He twisted in New Orleans, boy. Yeah, that was my first time going to the Superdome.
Yeah, I gotta say that was a W.
I gotta say I was thoroughly disappointed. I'm not so much about the on-field product. I expected that, but the amount of Lions fans that were there,
right?
Like, it was crazy. Like, man, back when Drew Brees was there, man, nah, teams ain't taking over the Superdome like that.
Definitely not.
It was a little disappointing, man. Like, I had higher expectations for the Dome, but I understand why. Fans aren't happy with the on-field product. You can buy tickets for like $12 at the Superdome right now.
I just can't imagine New Orleans having just like, I just don't imagine like that being a place where people live full time. Like
That was actually my first time down there. It's a nice city.
it's just like it seems like one of those cities because like Mardi Gras and shit is so big and like the party scene and all that. I'm like
Very active.
so like it's hard to think of just a regular like living in New Orleans. It seems like just like a touristy element to it.
I
Like,
feel that way about a lot of cities for real. Like New York. Once I visited there, I'm like, okay, I don't know if I could live here.
yeah, I couldn't live in like Manhattan, but I think the other boroughs, like, I could definitely see like, okay.
Yeah.
And either way, like the sports teams, like, I mean, Manhattan has the Knicks, but like both football teams literally play in Jersey. Like, the Nets are in Brooklyn, like the Mets are in like Queens, the Yankees are in the Bronx. Like, you don't have to go to like straight downtown Manhattan for most of sports.
The Bears have actually been decent recently. They've been okay.
Yeah, they've been okay.
Last phase of the rebuild. You guys better take fucking Caleb and Marvin, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know about
Don't
phase of the rebuild.
Draft Marvin. Take somebody else with that other pick. Don't draft Caleb.
Don't draft. Damn, Caleb is washed. Drake May better.
I'm not a big Caleb Williams guy. Maybe I'm a hater, but I'm just not a big Caleb Williams guy.
Well, if USC was already in the Big Ten, I'd be a hater too. But they're allowed to.
You'll have no reason to hate on them. They're just mid.
Apparently, Otani is going to the Reds and the Cubs as of this 3-Point Weekly stream.
I did not say he was going to the Reds. I said if that were to be a thing,
you even
it would
brought
rock
it up.
the city.
Utter blasphemy. That was insane, Gabe. I can't.
I'm sorry that I can't have my favorite team get Juan Soto out the fucking woodwork, bro.
Have you ever been to a Reds game?
Yes, I went to a Reds game literally like this season.
Oh, you did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz hit a home run like the very first play of the game. It was against
dope.
Arizona.
I've been to like 3 Reds games, and every time I went, they were bad.
Bro, they literally were bad for like 6 years in a row. This is like the first time they were bad from like 2012 to like the Trevor Bauer year. And then Trevor Bauer left and became a redacted. I guess he cleared his name, but he became an interesting guy.
Allegedly. He was allegedly a terrible person.
And then they became bad again, but we couldn't acknowledge the good year because he was like blackballed. And then
the young core, nice though.
Now, yeah, we were okay for like half the season, and then we hit that rookie wall. Ellie De La Cruz forgot how to hit.
Yeah. See, I went to a game in 2022. It's actually, I think it was Father's Day 2022. And yeah, it got out of hand by like the 5th inning, and we ended up leaving because it was just like, why?
It's becoming a football city because of Joe Shiesty.
You mean Jake Browning? Pac-12 legend Drake. It's no coincidence that Washington makes the playoffs the same year Jake Browning becomes an NFL starter.
So he's a Washington legend.
He's a Washington legend. He was actually a dog at Washington.
I had no idea. Did not know what school he went to.
It was him.
I can name 2 athletes from Washington: Isaiah Thomas and Markel Fultz.
Bro, John Ross went to Washington. Legendary Bengals.
Yeah, don't fucking remind me.
Who else from the Bengals? I can't think of anybody else.
I don't know anybody from Washington on the Bengals.
Jaden McDaniels went to Washington. Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah. I think Malachi went. No, Malachi wasn't there, was he? No.
Malachi Flynn?
No.
He was at the same school as Kawhi.
Yeah.
There's more guys though. Washington. Did you say Markel?
Yeah.
That's one that you can say.
If you went like top 3 in the draft, I know what school you went to.
Really? Okay.
He said DeJounte Murray?
Yeah, DeJounte Murray, Washington. Yep.
Yeah.
There's somebody else. I just cannot think. Who?
Terrence Ross.
Terrence
think.
Ross. Yep, he went to Washington. Just retired, by the way. Shout out T. Ross.
Did Raptor legend.
Raptor legend. Deadlift
Greatest
shrimp.
50-point game.
I don't know if I knew that he was a Washington guy. I'm being honest.
I want to say Brandon Roy was as well.
Brandon Roy. Nate Robinson, Washington.
Yeah. Okay.
They actually got a decent list of NBA guys. Not gonna a decent list.
Not a bad list.
That kind of does make sense just because, like, I hear Seattle is a pretty rich basketball scene.
But not a lot of guys went there for real. From Seattle. Isaiah Thomas, Brandon Roy did.
Yeah, I guess isn't Zach LaVine a Seattle guy, but he went to UCLA.
UCLA.
Yeah.
Jamal Crawford went to Michigan.
Bro, like, it's literally in the chat of this stream that Death Taxes and Garrett bringing up just random old-ass NBA players.
Can't believe you didn't know what school Alan Crabb went to, man. Prior to the 2013 NBA draft.
He's a 2016 free agency legend before anything else.
Hey, he might be on like the all 2016 free agency second team, but I'm afraid that Tyler Johnson will be making the first team.
Now, that's what school did he go to? I don't think he seems like a Zona guy, but I don't think he is.
I don't think so. I don't remember what he was though.
It's gonna bother me.
Arizona does seem right, but I don't think it is.
Tyler Johnson. Garrett knows everybody. Tyler Johnson.
Tyler Johnson.
Fresno State. That doesn't seem right. He went to Arizona.
I would
Gabe,
not have thought of that.
what school did Otto Porter go to? He was top 3 in the draft.
See, I know it's. I'm just going to take the 50-50 and I'm going to say he went to Georgetown.
Yep. Okay.
I knew I always confused Georgetown and Georgia Tech. So I was like, Georgetown, Georgia Tech, Georgetown, Georgia Tech.
That's back when it was good. Otto Porter, he was a dog in college. He was elite. With the goggles. He was nice. Top 3 guys in the draft. Let's see.
Oh, if they were top 3, come on, bro. I know what school they went to.
I'm trying to think of guys, man.
Bro, you're gonna ask me somebody from like 06 that I'm gonna be like, what?
I keep thinking of guys that were like 4th and 5th and stuff like that. Who did Derek Favors go to? Who's top 3? He might have not been top. I might be a cat there.
Derek Favors looks like he would have went to like Kansas or some shit.
He was top 3. He was third.
You've already. Kevin McHale went to. I'm not gonna say it because I know it. Gabe, I will say the school.
Derek Favors was a Yellow Jacket. Okay.
I was about to give you a hand. You know what school Wesley Johnson went to? He was the number 4 pick in that draft.
No.
Let's see. A top like 10. I think this guy like a top 10 scorer went to the school. All time scorer. ACC school, but you might know them from being a Big East school.
Syracuse?
Yeah, Syracuse.
Okay. All right. Had to pull that out. You said top 10 scorer, and I'm like, all right, so somebody who's just known for scoring, and I'm like, oh, he's talking about Melo.
My
For a
next
second, I thought you were about to say like Karl Malone or some shit. I'm like, I couldn't tell you what school he went to.
Who cares what school he went to?
Him and Josh Giddey, like 2 peas in a pod.
I didn't know Wesley Johnson went to some schools. I have to look at that. I know he finished
Iowa
at
State as well.
You said Iowa
Iowa
State?
State. Yeah.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Hey, shout out Iowa State for producing the MVP favorites in both the NFL and the NBA.
The NFL has to fix that. I'm sorry. Tyrik Hill is the MVP.
Yeah.
If Brock Purdy wins MVP by not even being the most valuable player on his own team, that's crazy.
I'm trying to think. Top 3 picks. You know what school Aiden went to, right?
Yeah, he was an Arizona.
Okay.
They're the Wildcats, right? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. I'm trying to think, man. These draft classes, man.
No, the last few years, I definitely know.
Yeah. Where did James Wiseman go?
Memphis.
Okay. Where did Cade go?
Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Same school as Marcus Smart, I believe.
Yep. I will die.
They were like 2 of 3 top. I know it was some list was I forget what the thing was, but I know there was some graphic that it was Cade, Marcus Smart, and KD that were Big 12 players of the year or something.
Yep. I will die in the hill that Alonzo Trier was supposed to be him in the league. Oh, I'm gonna die on that hill, man. Oh my god.
Alonzo Trier was he was nice for 5 seconds.
I thought he could have been a Malik Monk type of guy, man. Thought he had that talent.
What happened to Damian Dotson, bro? That's what I want to know.
That's a great question. Probably somewhere overseas, maybe G League.
Probably. I am on the look. He is playing for the probably pronounced terribly wrong Ningbo Rockets of the Chinese Basketball Association.
China was actually calling? That's crazy.
Apparently.
3 picks, man. Do you know where Ben McLemore went to school? He was in the top 3 pick, but he was top 7. He went to a big school.
Oh, I absolutely do know what school Ben McLemore went to.
He went to a prominent school.
Is he a Kansas guy?
He is a Kansas guy. Good pull.
Let's go. Come on.
Draft class.
Some guys just
Jalen Green. It's outrageous.
Where did Jalen Green go to? That's like asking me where what's his fucking bro. If you're the colleges from the 2020 draft, it's Georgia, Memphis, supposed to go to UCLA, but decommitted and went and played in fucking Lithuania and Australia.
Where did Hashim Thabit go to school?
I was wondering if you were going to ask that one.
I knew you were about to pull that shit out on me, bro.
Another prominent school.
True.
Multiple national championships in your life.
I feel like he was a Duke guy in my head.
He was not.
Multiple national championships in your lifetime.
Is he a Nova guy?
Multiple national championships in your lifetime.
But you're saying that I'm naming teams to fit the criteria.
That's all I can really give you hint wise, man. I mean, they got some dogs in NBA history, man.
Who's another player that went to that college?
I can't give you that. Rudy Gay.
I feel like he went to a blue school.
He did go to a blue school. A blue blood, if you will. But not Duke.
Is he a Kentucky guy?
A Kentucky guy. Come on, Gabe. You got to get this, man.
I'm guessing everything but Carolina, bro.
Multiple national. I want to say 4 national championships in your lifetime. I'm gonna be honest. At least 3, but I want to say 4.
I'm washed, I guess. Is he not a Carolina guy?
Not a Carolina guy, man.
I didn't think so. Bro, what?
Yeah, you're right with 4.
4 national titles in my lifetime?
Lifetime.
Yeah.
I think Karan Elder went to this school.
1 you were quite young, but
Charlie Villanueva went to the school. Thank you, Garrett. I can't give you the names that you know because that's like
that'll be too easy.
Yeah, that'll give it away.
The rest are.
Why do I not know what school this is, man? Bro, it's like right on the tip of my tongue.
The women's ball hint from Garrett should be good help.
Oh my gosh, bro. I cannot believe this.
I was gonna say they just made the Final Four, but I feel like
you were gonna say you can't tell me the name you cannot tell me is Kemba Walker, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Like I could have told you.
I was like, okay, I know it's one of those like northeastern like blue teams. Like that was what was in my head, and I was like trying to go through teams. I know, because then I was like, I can't think of nobody, so then I just started naming prominent blue schools.
That's a tough one though, because he was a bum in the NBA.
He was a bum, and that is now 14 years ago. So,
do you know where Tyrik Evans went to school? He was the 4th pick in that draft.
Oh, I low-key do know this. I was just talking about this with somebody. Might have been last week on here.
I wouldn't say a prominent school, but they've had some dogs.
He just feels like an Indiana guy, even though he's not.
Not Indiana, no. I would say as far as producing NBA players, maybe recently over like the last 15 years, a little more pop there, I would say. Just a little more. Back-to-back Rookie of the Years.
From the Rookie of the Year before was the same. Wasn't that like 08, 09? So what was that like?
Was it? I can't give you all that.
Wasn't D Rose Rookie of the Year? Was he another Memphis guy?
He is another Memphis guy.
Dang, okay. Wow. Getting my college knowledge up, man.
Do you know where Eric Gordon? He was a top 3 pick. He might have been.
Oh, I know about Eric Gordon. Who's your legend? Come on, man.
Okay.
OJ legend. OJ. Oh, did I know this, bro? Bro, come on.
I wouldn't say this is a basketball.
Watch.
They put out some good teams.
OJ.
I wouldn't say that they were a basketball school, though.
Bro, I picture OJ Mayo in like some weird ass colors, bro. Like
that's good to think. Weird color. Like I said, not a basketball school, really.
When I hear not a basketball school, weird colors, the first name that came to mind is Oregon, but I don't think he's an Oregon guy.
Think same conference.
What, Pac-12?
Think Pac-12, same conference, right there.
Is he a UCLA guy?
Think same conference.
Arizona?
Think same conference.
Same conference.
You were hot. You were hot.
Washington?
You were hot.
USC?
USC, yes. Women's volleyball school. I don't know about USC women's volleyball.
I'm not familiar.
He didn't go to Wisconsin. What are we talking about?
God. That's all the top 3 picks I can think of. Unless you know where Darren Williams went to school.
I unfortunately do not.
You should.
Williams.
All I can think of is him in that sweet Utah Jazz jersey.
Valid. Darren Williams, man. I don't know what you look at this school as. Not really a basketball school, not really a football school. God. Power 5 conference.
Same place as a current Bull.
Who would that current Bull be? I'm trying to think.
I low-key know where most of the
yeah.
Bulls went to college.
Yeah, same place as the current Bull.
When I think of the current Bulls, I got like Kobe White went to Chapel Hill. Zach LaVine went to UCLA. DeMar and Vooch both went to USC. DePaul went to FSU. Ayo DeSumo went to Illinois. Who else is on that roster?
You've named the school already. I'll say that.
Darren Williams? Was he a UCLA guy?
Like I said, not really a basketball school, not really a football school.
Illinois guy?
He's an Illinois guy.
That just feels weird.
They were good though. I think they, if not the Final Four, I think Elite Eight. They were good. They were really good.
Who was that dude on Illinois that recently? He had a really weird name. I forget.
Kofi Cockburn.
Yes, Kofi Cockburn.
Insane. Hometown dude that would have been swappy.
Does Chicago even claim the rest of Illinois? I feel like Illinois is so separate from Chicago.
I feel like a lot of people, if they're just from Illinois, they'd be like Chicago.
Garrett is basically from Chicago. He's not even from Illinois.
Chicago legend.
Yeah, historical players I can be really bad at. Current players in the NBA who are relevant, I'm pretty decent. Role players in the NBA currently, I'm pretty terrible though.
Like who?
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
Bro, if you ask me where Austin Reeves went to college, bro, I'm giving you Virginia running in the other direction.
Wichita State. I think he went to two schools. I'm sure. 15 minutes away from Chicago.
Bro, if you ask me where Jacques Landale went to school, I'm finished.
I don't know if I know that one.
Jacques Landale. Yeah, I don't think I know that one.
Can I get his hand?
Same school as Della Vadova.
St. Mary's?
Yeah.
Wow. I would have told you Jacques Landale played in Australia. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in college either, to be fair. Thought he came from Australia when he signed with the Spurs.
Thanks. I thought Aaron Baines was the same way too.
I mean, to be fair, he signed with the Spurs when he was 26, so it's not like he came out of college directly, but...
Thanks. He probably played with Dellavedova then. Aging him, right?
Yeah, it would have been around the same timeline, depending on how many years Landale had in college. Probably not quite, but...
Dude, I just looked at it. I probably knew this already, but it's just shocking to see that Jabari Smith and Kwame Brown are cousins.
I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Well, you know.
I didn't know Walker Kessler went to Auburn.
Started at Carolina.
He's an Auburn guy.
I didn't know Davion Mitchell went to Auburn either. I just knew him at Baylor.
I didn't know he went to Auburn. That's funny.
No, I just knew him at Baylor.
I actually did know that Chumo Kiki went to Auburn, but I forgot about Isaac Okoro.
I wonder what Jared Butler's doing.
Who?
Jared Butler. Played with Davion at Baylor.
The two best players to ever come out of Auburn, Charles Barkley and JT Thor.
Jared Butler has played what? A grand total of, what is that, 36 minutes for the Wizards this year?
He's going to be a decent pro.
Yeah, he hasn't got much of a chance, but he hasn't exactly been great at any point either. He had a few good games for OKC in last year, but
did y'all see Johnny Davis's jump shot?
I have not. I'm not gonna lie, I have not seen anything Johnny Davis in a long time.
Look, it was a warm up video. Bro. It's so jacked up. I tweeted it a couple weeks ago. It's so messed up, man.
It seems to be too much of a theme these days where guys come into the league and they're not instantly good shooters, or even they are good shooters in the case of Grady right now, and they just have so many things changed to their shot, and it's just not it.
I seen that video. Like Grady's jump shot looks a little different too.
Yeah, like I get it when guys are younger, but like you kind of just get to a certain point where if it's really wonky and you want to make minor changes, I can live with it, but major changes to a shot when you've been shooting a basketball for 10 to 12 years, like that's tough, man. Like if it's a bad shot and it's janky, sure. But if it works, you kind of got to live with it to a point.
Like nobody touched
like
Lonzo's shot until he got to the league and he couldn't shoot. They didn't touch a shot in college, high school.
Yeah.
Like I know like Tyrese and even like LaMelo had like some weirdness to their jump shots, but it's very clear that they can shoot.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm sure
like, why did you change
Tyrese, I'm sure if he was shooting like 27% from three, they'd probably be like, hey, we need to change this. But he shoots 40% from three, so keep it the same. Especially like, it just doesn't make sense to me, man.
No,
Too
it
much
doesn't.
coaching going on, overcoaching.
Hell, I got way less reps and way less muscle memory than some of these guys, and I had my shot changed dramatically mid my grade 10th year, and I never shot the three ball well after that. And I was like our 3-point shooter up until that point. And I was terrible.
My dad always kept my shot the same.
I was consistent until about, I think it was about midway through my grade 10. Or no, I was midway through my grade 9 year, I think. Yeah, I was midway through my grade 9 year. And then it was never the same after that.
Only time it makes sense to change form is if you're just not shooting good and your form is clearly jacked up.
Yeah. Well, mine got changed after an 8 for 15 weekend, so.
Like, what sense does that make?
Interesting timing. I think I was 2 for 18 the rest of the year.
That makes sense, man.
Although he was a good coach, so I won't blame him because he was definitely the best basketball coach I ever had, but definitely was not ideal.
Good coaches mess up too.
For sure.
That's good. I don't think I ever had a coach try to change my jump shot.
Hey, that was my high school coach too, Garrett, because the only shot he ever took was a hook shot. He was a little 5-foot dude, but he knew the game well, and he was a bit of a stockier dude. So he just stood in the post and just do the biggest sky hooks, and you could not defend it. He was unguardable within 5 feet.
What's funny about that? It's different if it's like a shooting coach, but like your high school coach is not working out with you in the off season. It's not working out with you in AAU. Like most of the times, like no, I won't even let a coach try and change my shot. Like you don't work with me in the empty gyms when it's just me and my pops.
For real.
Who else for the ball position? Weirdly, like
It's insane, bro. Like, yeah, coaches got to be better. So I'm glad nobody touched Tyrese's jump shot because he shot it well in college. Been shooting good in the pros since day one. And his shot is ugly as hell, but that motherfucker goes in.
For real. For real. Well, in the interest of time, I should probably look to wrap this up right away. But
Yep.
I'll ask you guys before I wrap it up. 20 games in, who was the way too early MVP favorite?
Oh,
Off the top of my head, I'm probably gonna say Jokic.
He's definitely my guy.
Off the top of my head, I'll say Jokic. Embiid's probably a close second.
Embiid's in there. Giannis has brought him back in the conversation over the last few weeks.
Yeah. Dang.
Dang, he really did wrap it up right away. Fuck it, give me Ant.
I like it. He's been great.
Realistically, it's the two center guys again, but we've seen the same MVP race 3 years in a row. Can we please have a different MVP race?
It's not changing, bro.
Like, technically, I think Jokic's first MVP, the runner-up was Curry, but like it's been the same MVP race really for 4 years in a row now. It feels like the Cavs Warriors finals shit again. So I'm just gonna say it's Anthony Edwards just for the interest of please. Can we freshen up the MVP scene?
I hate it.
I think he's got a dark horse chance. If the Warriors can figure out how to win basketball games, then Curry has a chance. I don't think he'll get the media buzz, but the way De'Aaron Fox is playing, I don't hate him as a deep dark horse.
Give me Usman Garuba.
I feel like I had another Garuba. I feel like I had another name, but
Now,
not coming to mind now. But
Hallie has been very good, but at the end of the day, they are only at like 6.
Gary
I'll
missed him.
also
He gave Trey
say-
Young his flowers earlier.
Luka's low key.
Luka,
I
that was
mean,
the other
he
name.
just put up literally a 25-point triple double in the first half. Like, I mean, that's pretty good.
yeah, he's been great. He's been great, no doubt about it. 31, 8, and 8. Yeah, Jokic is still in.
13 and 10. Not shooting good from 3, but we'll take it. He's still producing everywhere else.
I'm sick and tired of Denver, bro. Get these guys out of here.
Yeah, they're just getting started. I'm ready for some Denver dominance, and I'm here for it.
Gosh. The Curry MVP agenda dead.
Yeah, it's not looking good unless they start winning some games. That's for sure.
It's a sad day to be a Kergoat stan. Can't win MVP because Clay fucking stinks.
Overpaid Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
Man, tough luck, but
Free Moses Moody, man. Give him the minutes.
give Moses Moody his minutes. That is that is where we end this week. It seems fitting.
Full circle.
Full circle indeed. But we will wrap it up for this week. We appreciate everyone who has tuned in and supported the stream tonight. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit the like button down below and do subscribe for more NBA content throughout the season. As we mentioned at the start of the stream, we will not be live next week, but we will be back to regular programming after that as we get into the middle and end of December. I'll have the in-season tournament winner to talk about by then, and I'm sure much more after we go through 2 weeks of the NBA season, and we will be past that December 15th deadline of when most guys can be traded. So rumor mill will probably be heating up a bit by then too. So lots to talk about by then. But until then, we hope you guys have a good couple of weeks, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.